What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys, live over on YouTube. We're also live over on Facebook, as well as Twitch for you guys. And also, at the end of this recording, we will be putting this video up on Spotify for you guys if you love your audio versions. But Spotify does now also carry video. So if you would like to go ahead and follow us on Spotify, please go ahead and do so. There is a link in the description box below, guys. But hey, late evening Sunday wrap up here for you guys. Had to maneuver around the time a little bit here this week, but I'm so glad that everybody certainly got the opportunity to join us today. Feel free to also go ahead and submit your live viewer questions. We currently do have a post up there if you want to go ahead and submit something over. So we're going to be wrapping up your weekend properly before we head into Wednesday. To head into Monday. And it's not just myself. I got my good old co-host certainly coming back once again. Stuart Branscombe in the house. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you too. How have you been?
Pretty good, man. I apologize, guys, if we came live a couple minutes late here. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties there for a little bit in regards to getting both of our mics and headphones and everything situated before today's show. But I'm doing good. Stuart, it's good to see you, man. Not a bad weekend. I actually went to a Carlos Santana concert last night. Yeah. The my girlfriend's sister, Alexis, wound up having an extra ticket. They had purchased these tickets actually last year. I think Carlos was actually here in the DFW area, and he wound up getting sick. So he had to cancel his concert, and I think this is sort of like the makeup. But I got invited this time around. We took him for it was myself, the girlfriend Alexis, along with their father, Manny. He joined us. It was really for him because he's a huge Carlos Santana fan, and he absolutely loves music and playing instruments and stuff. So it was a really cool experience, man. I've always wanted to see Carlos Santana. I've got some hits. For me, Maria was like at the prime time in my life growing up in the early 2000s, if you will. And so I absolutely love that song. And he's got a couple other classics, obviously, but it was a really fun night, man. I had a great time.
Sounds like a blast. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Have you ever seen Carlos Santana in concert, or what's the last concert that you've been to?
God, last concert I went to, I think it's actually been a minute. It was Ninja Sex Party when they were here in San Francisco. I think that was like back in it was either 2018 or 2019. It was definitely like before the pandemic. And yeah, I haven't been to a concert since the pandemic.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man. I've seen my fair share. My Chemical Romance, I think, was one of my biggest ones that I've had the opportunity to go see. It was a blast, and I had that like emo phase of like Dashboard Confessional for a moment, So yeah, I've never been to a used concert, but I definitely would like to. But I've been to a few, so I really enjoy concerts, man. We need to go back out, man, for sure.
Yeah, whenever there's next time there's one in the area, I'll probably go to. There's actually, I think I mentioned this before, is that there's one that goes on at the park that's like a few blocks away from where my apartment's at. So Green Day was one of the bands that were actually playing, and we could like literally hear them from the apartment. Like it's like, oh, we almost don't even need to go to this one.
I would love to see Green Day in concert, man. On my bucket list, I would love to see Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I know they're getting old, man. I know they're getting old, and this is going to show my age. But Aerosmith, if I can ever catch an Aerosmith concert, that would be heaven for me. Just to say I've actually seen them perform. So there are a couple people I missed out on the Michael Jackson phase, unfortunately. Never got a chance to go to a Michael Jackson concert. So there's just some really great artists that are still around that I think if you've always wanted to go ahead and get the opportunity to see them now, because you think you may not be around forever. So definitely go ahead and check out a concert when you can.
Oh yeah.
So you've been up to, Stuart? How's your week been going, man?
It's been a pretty chill week. Haven't been up to anything new or anything like that, but just another chill week.
Sounds good, man. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and get into some of our honorable mentions for the week for you guys. Some topics that didn't quite necessarily make the cut, but felt that we certainly needed to go ahead and bring to your attention. Real quick, Stu, I'm just going to throw these out here. Oppenheimer dropped a brand new poster this past week. This is the upcoming Christopher Nolan film. Looks like that's July 21st. Just from the trails that I've seen so far, it looks pretty epic in scale. Christopher Nolan really does talk pretty highly about this film. And you tell me Christopher Nolan's dropping a brand new film, I'm there, Stuart. I love the look of this poster. But what are your thoughts? How do you like the poster, man?
Love it. It's like really funny because if I didn't know this was based on like, the atomic bomb and everything, I would have assumed this was a complete like new original sci-fi movie just from the looks of it, like a stylized which I mean, it might be. We still don't fully have an idea of what this movie is.
Yeah.
Like I have a feeling that he's gonna like pull a rug underneath us and it's gonna turn out to be like kind of a historical sci-fi fiction type of movie. So like have historical like facts in there. But I feel like just because it's Christopher Nolan, so just making a straight history type of film just doesn't seem like his style. So I'm expecting a little extra, and that's seeing posters like this that are very imaginative, I think help kind of like plant that idea.
Well, I'm trying to think of I did enjoy Dunkirk, and that was a pretty factual historical moment, if I'm not mistaken.
Was that Christopher Nolan?
I think that was a Nolan film, yeah, Dunkirk, if I'm not mistaken.
I take back my sentence then.
but I can, just based off of what he's done so much in the past, I can definitely for me, I think that'd be really, really fun if he actually turned that into a sci-fi fiction. I really dig that idea. If anything, I think maybe he's just going from a historical perspective, but just adding like that, like you mentioned, that modern day flair to sort of make it look like that sort of film. You know what I mean? So I dig it. I dig the poster. A couple other posters, character posters for The Flash wind up dropping here. These are the individual ones. You get to see Barry Allen's Flash there. We also wind up having Michael Keaton's Batman, the classic Batmobile there also. And then, of course, Supergirl, which I'm assuming this is probably, if I had to assume, Wayne's manor that she's certainly at, but it looks like Supergirl here as well. Stuart, they actually just had the production designer for The Flash just came out and had an interview that he did talking about him remembering watching the movies when he was a kid, the original Michael Keaton Batman films, and he says now he finds himself redesigning those same things that he'd loved, like the Batmobile, and then literally he mentioned the idea like a Batwing of scale. So I'm assuming that like the shot that you see of it coming down is probably like actually practical, like the idea of him having to design this type of stuff along with the classic cave and reimagining it and whatnot. So I'm really looking forward to just kind of see the visuals of this movie and really how that nostalgia factor is going to hit. But how do you like the posters, man?
I love it. Before I get into them, I just got to bring up, we got a super chat from Priscilla for $20. Thank you so much. And she says she's wanted to show my support to you guys. You all are awesome. Thank you. You are awesome.
Yeah, you are awesome for that one. So thank you so much. But Ditilla, I actually have not had the opportunity to finish watching WWE Backlash yet from Puerto Rico. But I will tell you, man, so far, I think I'm like maybe two matches in. I watched the women's match and I watched Rollins and almost really enjoyed both of them. The women's match blew me away. But we already talked about that in predictions. Like if there's anybody that could steal the show, it's definitely those two. They know how to certainly carry a match. That was an incredible match. And look, Seth Rollins still being able to carry even somebody like almost through the match, and what was a really spectacular and fun match for me. Also really enjoy it. The crowd was hot. I cannot wait to finish Backlash later on tonight. So I'm still looking forward to seeing how predictions are going to go. But thank you so much, Datila. I really appreciate that. Let's see here. What else we got, Stuart? What you gonna say something else? Oh yeah, go ahead.
So my thoughts on the posters. Yes. So yeah, really like I really love the design for the Michael Keaton Batman poster, especially with it just the Batmobile looking exactly the same, everything looking like it's just modernized, just enough to fit like a modern film, but not too much so it doesn't look like the original designs or anything like that. It still looks very much in line with those. It's like that perfect having your cake and eating it too in the middle. And then with the Supergirl poster, I also just think that's just a really cool, epic looking poster,
Epic.
especially with the I don't know if that's like lightning or if that's an explosion, but just kind of adds
Oh, I see
some
that.
cool color to that. And then of course the Flash poster looks awesome. I actually the more I look at the suit, it really depends on the camera angle, because again, I think there's weird times where it almost looks like he's wearing a bicycle helmet. Other times I think like, when I'm looking at just the cowl with the costume as a whole, I think it looks really cool. I think it's just the close-ups on the face when I feel like the costume doesn't look as good, but when I see it as a whole, I think it looks pretty epic.
Yeah, like I really dig it. It is one of those things that sometimes it grows on me. Other times I'm like, ugh, I just don't know. I have those moments, man. But yeah, you know what? Look, I'm really excited to see Sasha Kaye as Supergirl. She looks great in the suit. I think the suit is epic itself. I really love the design that they wind up giving her for this one. And just the brief moments we've seen in the trailer, I'm hoping that there's, I can't remember how long this movie is. I feel like it's probably relatively long. So I am hoping that there's a lot more to her character that we haven't had the opportunity to see. Because I would like her to not only have a great performance, but maybe even open up the possibility of her returning for James Gunn's DCU, maybe, unless he decides to go another route. I don't know. But I think it would be cool to hopefully capture something really great with this performance. So we'll see.
Yeah. She honestly, if they go by the comic books for Woman of Tomorrow, which is like a story about her just trying to celebrate her 21st birthday off Earth so she can like actually get drunk.
Mm.
If that's the story they go for, I feel like she's the perfect age for that. She looks like
That's funny.
she could have just like turned 21, and that could be like the start of the movie.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to read that one yet, but I'm definitely going to have to, especially since it's going to possibly influence the upcoming film. So I definitely want to check that out.
I still haven't finished it, but from the first two issues that I've read, it's definitely got my attention.
Who else we wind up having in here? Let's give some shout outs to those that are in attendance here also today. We got Blossom in the house. Good to see you. Good old Ram Jam is certainly here today. Enrique Perez says, "Hey Adam, I can't believe all the movie studios have canceled every project." We'll definitely talk a little bit about that here coming up pretty soon. Blossom says, "Alexis, your girlfriend's friend's name is my middle name." That's her sister. But that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was your middle name. So thank you for letting us know that. Who else we got in here? Did I give Ram Jam a shout out already? Yeah, I did. And of course, Marcelino is in the house also. Hey, man, it's okay. You come at your own pace, brother. It's all right. In and out whenever you feel like it. All right. In regards to honorable mentions, guys, I do want to go ahead and talk a little bit something here with you, Stuart, and pick your brain about everything that's going on. But it's really the moment in time here that's kind of shaken movies and television, and that's currently the WGA writer strike that's currently going on right now. It's one of those things where here we go. I'll put this one up first. It's one of those things that we kind of saw coming. They unfortunately never got the opportunity to make the deal, and so now those members that are a part of the Writers Guild are now officially on strike, and they have stopped their services in regards to writing scripts, rewrites, whatever the case may be, working on productions, and it's really halted and stopped a lot of productions. And I think the big question, maybe some people might have heard about it, maybe they don't necessarily know all the insights in regards to what's going on, what are the writers truly asking for, where are the companies and the studios, what's their perspective on this sort of thing, right? Like, what does this all kind of boil down to? And so I want to just take some of our time here for honorable mentions to just kind of go over some of the things that I've been able to find from variety.com that maybe helps enlighten a little bit of us all in regards to everything that's kind of going on as of right now. So that's what I wanted to do real quick, Stuart, in regards to this. But do you have any overall thoughts in regards to how everything's turning out or what's going on right now? Oh, I think you're muted.
So at first, I think the biggest shock was that the strike even happened to begin with. I thought by now Hollywood and just TV studios by now would have learned their lesson, learned that if this many writers all at once are saying that they're being paid unfairly, maybe it's a good time to listen to them instead of trying to ignore them and let them go on strike for like 100 days. So I'm not sure why they're waiting so long to like actually kind of negotiate with the writers at this point, because it feels like their demands are, mostly reasonable. I'm not sure if we were planning on going over them at some point during the show, or if we were planning on going over the exact demands or anything like that. But from what I have read, they seem very reasonable. And I don't know. It's bizarre to me that they let it happen. But at the same time, the one thing that the studios are probably thinking, and the reason that I'm not like super worried about if this strike goes on longer than anticipated, is that I feel like, currently we have so much content that's already kind of in pre-production currently. So like basically in the stages where you don't necessarily need the writers. And I think that's might be what studios are waiting for. It's waiting for the point where they run out of content and actually need the writers before like actually making these deals. And I think they're using that as a way to kind of like see, I don't know, just because, the longer you wait, the longer, in the negotiator's mind, it shows confidence. So, I think that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to scare the writers into thinking that they're not like as needed as they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, because of how many people are supporting the writer's strike, how many people are behind it, I don't think the strategy is going to work in the studio's favor. I do think that no matter how long they try to wait out the writer's strike, it's not going to go the way they think. In fact, if anything, I could see things getting even worse for them because of this, because of like the fact that it's not just writers who are striking. You already have some people who are actors, directors that are joining it. And I think if studios think that they can get away with like kind of, just working around the writing, just doing everything that's already in pre-production and just hoping that'll last for, the entire strike, I think they're going to soon learn that like, some of the people that support the strike may not be willing to work on these projects or anything like that. So I think overall they're going to try to wait it out, and it's not going to work as well as they think, because they got too many people supporting them that, the studios just don't, that the studios themselves aren't accounting for.
Well, the last strike lasted 100 days, so it will be interesting to see how long this one is going to last. I don't know if it's going to come under or over, but maybe we'll take some bets at the end of this episode.
I bet under, personally.
Bet under. Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. Let's go ahead and maybe answer some of those questions here, Stuart. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this Variety article. Now, this Variety article dropped before the strike happened. In regards to, look, this is what's happening. This is what the studios are asking for. This is what the writers are asking for. Type of stuff when we go over it. So it gives you a better understanding, like what led us certainly to this point. So this was before. What date was this? Where's the date on this thing? May 1st. So yeah, sometime last week, just before the that Monday. Will there be a strike? We don't know. What are you hearing? Two sides continue to negotiate. Clearly, that fell through. What do the writers want? It says money for starters. Writers are seeking a sea change in their compensation, starting with a significant hike in guild weekly minimums. They also want to rewrite the formula for streaming residuals to pay writers more for hit shows and to pay more with the growth in international subscribers. They want to expand span protection, which is a contractual provision that limits the time period that studios can retain writers for their episode fees to, it looks like 2.4 weeks, so that it covers writers making 400,000 and above, which would increase their overscale pay substantially. The guild has estimated that the total cost of its proposal is 600 million. They also want changes to working conditions. They want a minimum staff level for TV writers' rooms. They want writers to work for a guaranteed minimum number of weeks per show. They want provisions that would require that writers be involved in production and post-production of shows so that writers get producing experience. They want a provision that would protect writers' compensation and credits from encroachment by AI, though they're not seeking to forbid the use of AI in screenwriting. If the writers go on strike, it would likely not be for any one or two of these reasons, but rather for all of the above. So that's the perspective from the writers in regards to what they want.
Looks like we got another super chat. I just wanted to bring up real quick from Blossom. She donated $5, and
Hey,
her
Blossom.
comment is a strike. Holy macaroni! As a writer myself, I can't blame them.
Yeah, absolutely. There, look. I also, if you guys go over to our Facebook page, I did post a video on that Monday or Tuesday that really broke this down also for you guys, and a lot of it seems to be coming from really the streaming service aspect of things. A lot of the reasons why I even found out that they like remove some of their hit shows off of their streaming services, very shortly. Sometimes we're kind of caught abrupt, like, oh my goodness, why did that show, leave that streaming service? Well, come to find out that sometimes it's the idea that they don't want to pay the writers or those part of the production crew any residuals for having their product certainly on their streaming service anymore. It's a way to kind of undercut them from no longer getting paid for their services. So it's a lot to do with in regards to the streaming services and what's certainly going on. But check it out over on our Facebook page. Again, there is a video that I wind up dropping either Monday or Tuesday that goes into really what's going on with the streaming services here. But Stuart, you see some of the what they're certainly asking for in regards to the guild has estimated that the total cost of its proposals is about $600 million. Look, I got to admit, at the end of the day, you probably put this out there in regards to, look, this is what we want. Does this necessarily mean that they're going to get all of it? It says if the writers go on strike, it will likely not be for any one or two of these reasons, but rather all of the above. So I am kind of curious, like what the companies even negotiated. Like was it like was what they negotiated sort of a slap in the face, or how close did they actually come to the 600 million? Like I don't honestly see them getting the 600 million, but I got to think that there's maybe a negotiating point that they can get to 400 million, 450 million sort of thing. I don't know. I guess the money's got to come from somewhere, right, though?
Yeah. And I think that might be a part of it. It may also be like not necessarily that studios don't want to pay the writers. It could be that they're trying to think of a fair way they could redistribute the money. Because I know like the most obvious one that people kind of go to currently is, well, why do actors get, $10 million and writers only get $10,000? So that's like kind of a one that like a lot of people use in the argument. And so I wonder if that's like kind of some of the options that studios are kind of like looking into, like maybe paying actors slightly less in order to pay writers more, maybe paying producers less. I got to imagine that's probably what they're like contemplating at the moment.
Yeah, because I remember I even watched an interview here this week where somebody called out David Zaslav for his yearly earnings being like $250 million, and he's like that what he makes is like what we really need, and so it's look, I think it's also the idea of just like exorbitant pay for people up at the top. Like you can't get by on like $150 million a year, my guy. Like what sort of lifestyle are you living right now? Type of thing. So I am, and clearly, when it comes to their streaming services, they make a bajillion dollars. So sometimes I just feel like they're tight asses. It's almost like the most rich are like the most frugal at the same time. Always trying to be as cheap as they possibly can. The article does go on to say, what do the studios want? They say a fair and reasonable agreement. There is no sign as yet that they are open to a TV staffing minimum or a streaming residual formula that would incorporate viewership data, which they view as top secret. See, that's the thing, Stuart, right? It's like the residual from streaming, the idea of, hey, we create this hit show, millions of people watch the show on a daily basis. There's got to be some additional compensation for something along those lines. And so the idea of them not even being open to it because they want to keep their views top secret, that is just fishy as fuck to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something that people have been complaining about with Netflix for a long time. The fact that they don't share their streaming numbers, which, especially when it comes to them canceling shows, because, they'll say that, well, we canceled it based on the viewership. and we'll be like, okay, what were the views? Then they'll be like, well, we can't release that to the public. I do think that should be allowed to be public knowledge, personally. And yeah, it makes total sense that, and I think this is exactly why they don't want it to be public knowledge, because they knew that writers would want to use, not just writers, but anyone would want to use this as an argument. But it's also like kind of funny because, you know, if you were to pay your writers more based on the viewership of your show, wouldn't that just mean you would get writers that probably are going to be putting in a lot more effort into writing, a show for you, thus giving you a better product, thus making you even more money? To me, this seems like paying your writers more for a show that has like better views. That feels like a win for both parties. So it's weird that, that's something that they wouldn't want to consider. And then also the idea of minimum staffing for writers. I also, can only imagine how stressful a writer's room would be if you're writing a show that has like, let's say 13 episodes, but you got like only 3 writers to like kind of plan out an entire season like that. So that also seems like it would be like not a totally unfair like kind of rule to have as well.
Mm-hmm. It also says they are likely more flexible about pay hikes, especially on minimums, as employers across the country are agreeing to union contracts with first-year raises of 5 to 7% due to high inflation. The WGA has acknowledged that the studio has made small moves in a few areas, though not what would be needed to get a deal. And I always feel like the pay hikes, companies always just kind of feel like, okay, let's just throw some money to them, make them happy, give them a raise, and then that should, ease all of their burdens. When, it don't matter how much money I got, if I'm being exhausted by the work that I'm doing and my health isn't necessarily the best, or I don't have the time to go somewhere to certainly get checked out, sort of thing, it's what good is that necessarily going to do me? It doesn't really change sort of the lifestyle or the work environment that these streaming services have sort of created, And so, I can see them easily being, okay, look, we got this money, let's throw some money their way in that regards. But there's definitely more to it than that. So it doesn't surprise me that they seem pretty flexible in regards to anything involving cash. It's really the idea of, hey, we don't want to pay we don't want to pay you more for a longer period of time. You know what I mean? Oh, I think you're.
Yeah.
What else does this say? It says if they don't reach a deal Monday night, will the strike begin Tuesday? It says yes, they've told Wall Street analysts that a strike would begin on Tuesday, and there's no indication otherwise. They clearly went ahead with that. Which shows will go off the air first? It says the WGA has put out a list: Jimmy Kimmel Live, Tonight Show, Real Time with Bill Maher, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Saturday Night Live, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. All of those shows rely on writers to produce material right up to the last moment. Without writers, they would be forced into reruns. Mm-hmm. Viewers might not notice too many other disruptions for quite a while, at least. Shows that have already been produced but not yet broadcast will continue to air. A lot of shows have wrapped for the season. NBC's Law and Order shows just wrapped last week, meaning the footage is in the hands of the network and the final episodes will be airing. But CBS's FBI Most Wanted are still scheduled to shoot this week, so their current season could be impacted. A strike might have to go on for several months before it impacts next season's shows. And for a lot of shows, a traditional seasonal calendar doesn't mean too much. Showtime's Billions is scheduled to film season 7 scenes this week in New York, but it does not have a premiere date. Will TV production halt if there is a strike? Not entirely. Reality shows, news, sports, interview-based talk shows, and other non-scripted entertainment are not subject to the WGA agreement and will continue. And even some scripted production could continue. It says the WGA cannot stop showrunners from coming to work in their producer capacity so long as they don't do any writing. For them, it really is an individual decision. And I think that's kind of what you mentioned, right, Stuart? The idea that there are some people, maybe like the directors or maybe even some showrunners too, that are kind of on strike that are part of the WGA. In fact, we literally just had an article this week. I think of like Disney and some of these other big companies like sending out letters to their showrunners saying, look, we know that you're a WGA member, but you still have other sort of like producing duties that you got to do. You don't have to do any writing, but in some other capacity, we need you to kind of come back to work. So I guess that's what this is kind of addressing also, about what the WGA isn't necessarily covering.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Because
what were you gonna say?
sorry, it was like, what was it? It was the 2008 when the original writer strike happened. Yeah, you saw like a huge increase in like reality TV shows, and it kind of worked back then only because YouTube wasn't what it is today. But I can guarantee you, if like different networks are planning on are hoping for something like that to kind of be what holds them out for the writer's strike, it's not going to work as well, because now I feel like YouTube is filled with the same stuff that used to entertain people back like in 2008 with those type of reality shows. You can like now find them on YouTube. And yeah, I don't think like waiting it out using reality shows is going to work it out as well for them as it used to.
Yeah, I mean that's really what gave sort of birth to the reality television shows for sure. So I wonder what new projects would form out of this. It says for them, it really is an individual decision. Some may feel a lot of social pressure if they continue to work while their lesser paid colleagues are on the picket lines. In that case, they might hand off the producing duties to a non-WGA producer who would keep the production going. And many shows will certainly shut down. Most showrunners who are WGA members will likely stop all of their producing work on shows to demonstrate solidarity with their guild. In that case, it might make more sense for a studio to halt production. So I think that's what they're definitely facing as of right now. I think is that pushback that we're getting from these studios, telling them, "Hey, you guys need to come back to work." Right? The WGA Guild doesn't protect you from that. Like you still have to come back to work. But listen, if you're holding on to that solidarity and you want to continue to demonstrate, you might you might just pull all your services. And I could definitely see that impacting some things already. Will film production be affected? So it says if a film already has a completed script, it shouldn't have a problem. But if the script needs rewriting during production, no WGA writer would be available. A strike that lasts several months could delay production of films for which scripts are not yet complete. The Directors Guild of America will still have no strike clause in place. Individual actors or directors may choose not to work during the WGA strike, but they can be replaced or even hypothetically sued if they breach a personal service contract. Writers, directors might feel the same pressure that showrunners feel. Such members of both WGA and the Directors Guild of America and would be on strike in their writing capacity, but allowed to work in their director capacity. They can walk off set if they're not comfortable, but they can also be replaced. So you're really seeing how this is really going to affect everything. And I think just from our main topic alone that we're going to be talking about here after this strike, I think you'll see this exactly how this plays out. Right, Stuart?
Indeed.
So yeah, there you go, guys. If you guys want to go ahead and read the rest of the article, you certainly can. But it is currently up on our Facebook page as well in that regards. So yeah, Stuart, how are you feeling about all this, man?
I'm bummed from, the content that we're not going to be getting, but at the same time, I do think this is very necessary. I think that if they are being underpaid, it's important to get that message across as soon as possible that, hey, we're not going to take this. We're just as valuable to the project as everyone else is. So we deserve to be compensated for, our hard work and everything like that. So I really hope the best for the writers. I really hope they get what they need. Not necessarily everything they want from it, but everything they need from this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I know the idea of potential AI writers probably is looking more and more appealing by Hollywood studios, which I think is idiotic. I
Mhm.
just, it's just a terrible move, and just definitely not the way to go. So I'm kind of curious to see how that will evolve, kind of going forward.
Here's the thing is like I feel like AI isn't a bad idea when using it as like an assistant for a writer. Like for me, what I've actually been doing recently is I've been kind of experimenting with Chat GPT. So what'll happen is if I need dialogue from like something that I know nothing about, like let's say it's I need there's a scene that's taking place in a hospital and I need to know how a doctor would talk about a certain situation. I would pretty much just write into GPT, hey, what would a doctor say if yada, yada, yada? That's a great way to use Chat GPT. So that way I don't have to like go out of my way to do a bunch of annoying research just to write a 5 minute scene. I can literally just like ask Chat GPT this and get like a good line of dialogue that I could just re edit. I don't think there's anything wrong with using it that way. But that being said, I've also just to see what would happen have written, hey, Chat GPT, write me a script about this. And I've seen what it'll write. It understands the assignment, but holy shit, is it bad writing? And it would never work if Hollywood were to just try to use that to make a movie. It would not work at all. Yeah, you would destroy the movie industry if Hollywood just tried to pull that off.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And look, even the writers themselves say, look, we're not opposed to the use of AI, but in limited fashions, type of thing. So I definitely appreciate that. But let's get a little bit more current real quick in regards to like how this is affecting studios now, like which shows that we are currently watching that are having to put a halt to things. So this says pens down what writers not working really means for shows in production. When AC Bradley was hired to write the Miss Marvel, part of her job entitled "Going to Set Every Day" to help with rewriting scenes on the fly while the show was being filmed. She says it was a mixture of everything from wanting to add new characters into the show to needing to change things because of location. Just one example, she says the date of production was set to shoot a chase sequence at the Marriott Hotel. She helped to add a beat where the chase entered the kitchen because it was nearby. Why not use what you have? This kind of scenario is, of course, no longer possible during the ongoing writer strike. Pens down means no WGA member can write or change scripts whatsoever during, before, or after production. In many cases, that has meant showrunners have left their shows entirely, like the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power executive producers. Other writers, Cobra Kai executive producer John Hurwitz wind up leaving. Other writer rooms have shut down in advance of production for the next seasons, like Abbott Elementary and Yellow Jackets. Some showrunners are still involved with their stories, however. House of the Dragon executive producer is on set during the production of HBO's second season, but with scripts already completed. And they're also working with a source close to the show, says it is strictly a non-writing capacity. So no editing, no network notes, no writing. Similarly, while Andor executive producer Tony Gilroy is not on set and no longer writing, scripts were locked before the strike. Sources say he will still work as a producer on non-specific writing elements for the show. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, some people are definitely trying to balance that, but it is interesting the idea of them having already gotten in a lot of their scripts on time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll say this. Something that really surprised me about this. I always thought for the longest time that with showrunners that they weren't even like allowed on set because when I was taking film classes in at a junior college, that was like one of the things that we were told about is if you're a writer, just be prepared that whoever's directing your project probably wants you nowhere near the set. So I honestly didn't even know that showrunners had a job on set. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, man. See, we're learning something new every day, man.
Yeah,
Around here.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, man. So it's definitely affecting shows very much so like that. Let me see here. They said representatives for HBO and Lucasfilm declined to comment for this story. So yeah, there's certain shows that are definitely trying to balance things out in order to get things continuing to go. So hopefully that's a little bit more insight for you guys in regards to everything that's currently happening. And Stuart, with that, we should just jump right into our next topic, right? Because this kind of leads right into our MCU story that we have for you guys today, because Mahershala Ali and the Blade production is back. We literally just talked about this last week, Stuart. The idea of how many changes have certainly happened for this production, right? They've already had to replace its director. They have already had not one, but I believe two other writers for this movie. Last week, they literally just announced a brand new writer, the creator of the True Detective series. So a great pickup. But the idea that we've had like 3 to 4 writers on this film is certainly worrisome. So it's had its bumps in the road already. And Stuart, it's facing yet another one as the writer strike has officially shut down the Blade production. It is, in fact, on pause as of right now. This Stuart, this man's got to be pissed. How do you think Mahershala Ali's handling all this? You think he's cool as a cucumber right now?
Hard to say. I can tell you that if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't be. For one, here's the thing, and it's no offense to Blade as a character. I think Blade is really badass and everything, but his comic books, I feel like, are not the hardest to write. I feel like it's a fucking vampire comic book series. Those got to be not only fun, but not that challenging to write. So it's bizarre that it's like taken this long to get like a solid writer to work on a Blade film. And of course, by the time they finally hired someone, the writer strike hits.
Yeah, man. Marvel hits pause on Blade due to writer's strike. We'll go ahead and get into the details for you guys. So here we go. Let's see here. It says the writer's strike has taken a bite out of Blade. That's a good little line there. Marvel Studios is shutting down pre-production on its vampire thriller starring Mahershala Ali, which was set to begin filming next month in Atlanta. The feature project, which has been paused once before, becomes the first tentpole movie impacted by the strike. Cast and crew members are being notified this afternoon. Blade had recently hired True Detective creator Nick Pizzolatto to write on the script, but according to an insider, time simply ran out. The studio will restart the production once the strike is over. Since the strike action began Tuesday, the biggest impact has been on late night talk shows, Saturday Night Live, and different dramas. While some studios have 1 or 2 movies going in production, Marvel is seemingly propping up the industry by planning on having 3 movies shooting at the same time, not to mention 2 series. Even with the Blade shutdown, it is gearing up for one of the busiest times in the company's history. So they definitely have a lot of things currently going on in front of the camera. But one of those things, unfortunately, Stuart, will definitely not be the Blade movie. How are you feeling about this, man? Yeah, this is a little bit devastating. I'm hoping. Look,
sorry, I just realized was I muted?
No, yeah, I think you might have been muted. I'm sorry.
I was muted. Sorry. I meant to say, yeah, slightly frustrated. This feels like a movie that should have been ready to shoot like a while ago. But I am really glad that like, even if it's going to have to wait again because of the writer strike, at least they finally got a solid writer to work on it. And again, it is bizarre because it's Blade. We're not asking you to write a movie about a talking raccoon or a dude that builds, armor in the desert. We're asking you to write a movie about a guy that kills vampires. Doesn't seem that challenging, but okay. At least they finally got a solid writer, and hopefully after the writer strike is over, I'm hoping we can get a solid movie out of this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You and me both. I really hope that they come up with something here. In my head, I just thought to myself, "Oh, okay, maybe while the strike is happening and everybody's at home, maybe Nick can actually write some stuff down." Oh, I guess he can't. He can't really do that, huh? So it's like literally all production is halted, so he can't even like come up with these write down brand new ideas until like the next 3 to 6 months, however long this is certainly going to take us to certainly get through. But listen, man, this is the type of stuff that you guys are going to be seeing right now. While the writers definitely fight for what they deserve, it definitely will be putting a halt to things. And for me, Stuart, it mentions in this article the idea that, look, Marvel is getting ready to go ahead and start filming, right? They're going to be throwing things in production. We just learned from the other articles that sometimes when you're on set filming these big projects, there's rewrites, right? Like things that you got to change up sort of on the fly. And the idea that, maybe some of these producers and directors will be there, but if you need to add an additional scene or rework one because it's not working, you're kind of stuck with what you have. And if it ends up not being the best movie because you couldn't make those rewrites, I would be interested to kind of see. Yes, while they're going into production and getting ready to film, I do wonder what the end result of some of these MCU movies might end up being in regards to just like their overall quality. So one, maybe Blade pausing was the right idea instead of pushing it into production, and just maybe the script itself maybe not even fully done. You know what I mean? It almost felt like that was going to be a production that might just write as they're filming, which would have been terrifying in and of itself. Yeah, man, I'm sad, but maybe this is the best thing for the project. Maybe everybody can take a breather and come back with extra energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is also kind of funny to note because when it comes to Marvel movies, like, you were mentioning, they get rewritten a lot. And now that that's no longer an option for them, a lot of these directors are now going to have to realize they don't have the luxury of second guessing a scene. If it plays out and it doesn't come out as cool as it does on the script, well, they're stuck with that.
Stuck with it, right?
Yeah. So hopefully with Blade, once the writer's strike is over, there won't be any worry about that. They can go back to, kind of reworking things when they need to in the middle of filming it. And
but we'll see, man. We'll definitely keep you guys posted and any other developments that wind up happening throughout the week. And again, upcoming shows. I was going to say like shows like on the CW, but they barely have any television shows these days. But, the fall season of television, should be, those things should be going into production sort of thing, and they're not. So a lot of those shows might certainly be impacted and pushed a little bit further down, depending on whether or not a deal is certainly reached here. So definitely far reaching from film to television, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted going forward.
I definitely hope so. I know that there's like a lot of like questions on the renewal of Superman and Lois with season 4. I just hope that the writer strike isn't going to be the factor. If like the show doesn't get renewed, I really hope like the writer strike wasn't a factor into that. I really hope that it was a decision that, went beyond the writer strike.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. But all right, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Blade halting its production as the writer's strike has officially begun. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And man, I'm just ready for Blade production to stop hitting some road bumps. Like I really hope that it comes through at the end of the day. All right, guys. Next up, we're going to switch over from MCU and get into our DC talk today. Because for those of you who don't know, if you have been living under a rock, or maybe this is the first time you've heard, James Gunn is in fact creating a Superman movie. That's right, titled Superman Legacy. The script is officially done. So he did go ahead and finish the final script. He handed it in. It's ready to go. Pre-production for this movie has officially begun. If anything, I don't believe that they start filming until early 2024. So James Gunn, straight ahead, Superman Legacy is certainly still coming. But there is also another Superman movie out there, another concept for a Superman movie coming from producer J.J. Abrams, along with writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, if I'm not mistaken, as they're going to be doing a Black Superman movie. This has been announced, what, maybe the past year or so, Stuart? I don't remember how long it's been announced for, but do you remember when it was announced? I think you muted yourself.
I remember us talking about it at least like a year ago or so.
It's been a minute. It's
definitely been a while that we've been kind of going over this, because I remember this was even before, like way before they even announced James Gunn working working as like the head of DC.
And then we had also gotten news about who was it? Michael B. Jordan possibly producing another Superman movie as well. So we have a lot of moving pieces. And so, maybe some people just kind of assume, due to James Gunn tackling his Superman movie, releasing a complete DCU slate, right? His chapter 1. We went over this a couple of months ago with you guys. Not seeing any J.J. Abrams movie announced out there for a Superman film at all. Well, it just recently came back into the news here this past week, as James Gunn actually mentioned the idea of there might be room for another Superman movie out there, Stuart. And I got pretty interested about this. So I want to go ahead and highlight this with you guys. Let's go ahead and bring this up here, Stuart. This comes to us from Gizmodo.com. They usually come through with some pretty good articles from time to time. James Gunn's Superman movie hasn't erased the Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams one. The director of Guardians clarified that the other Superman movie could still happen. And I think this is also important, Stuart, to say James Gunn has mentioned this before. It might have gone under the radar for some, but he did mention this in his video release of the Gods and Monsters Chapter 1 slate, about how other movies could certainly still come into play. So let's go ahead and dive into this. It says, with Superman Legacy, the first true film in James Gunn's new DC universe, beginning to come together for a 2025 release, one might assume that all other takes of that character as gone as Krypton. However, IO9 has learned that that's not the case. While James Gunn is getting ready to release Guardians of the Galaxy, and then moving full-time to not only directing Superman Legacy, but molding the DC universe as a whole with his DC films. That move seemingly pushed everything happening at the DC before their appointment back. It says, however, speaking with them this weekend, James Gunn confirmed that just because his Superman movie is coming doesn't mean that one is completely off the board. This is what he says. He says, those two things are totally unrelated. That's an exciting movie. I know that Chantel Nung, who is the executive on that project, is extremely excited about it. So if it comes in and it's great, which I haven't read the script, and if the timing is right, this could absolutely happen. That's totally unrelated. It would be an Elseworlds tale like the Joker. And so they go on to say, so there's the loophole. Along with the announcement of the upcoming DC slate in January, James Gunn and Peter Safran said that the movies didn't fall into their robust, ambitious shared universe, like the Batman and the Joker would clearly be labeled Elseworlds, denoting those as separate from the main story. So it does say that this news actually of the Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams came out in 2021. So yeah, about 2 years ago is when that information wound up dropping. So a couple things here, Stuart. One, I am fascinated with the idea that he has not seen the script yet. We do know that Ta-Nehisi Coates continues to write it. I think he might have talked about it in individual interviews. If you go and research him within sometime this year, maybe late 2022, I think he talked about the idea of him still putting the script together. So I was kind of already under the impression maybe James Gunn has seen the script, but he clearly has not. But I love the fact that he's very much open to the idea of it certainly happening. And he already categorizes it as Elseworlds. And what I find fascinating is if you go back and read or listen to his announcement that he gives about the DCU slate, when he refers to Elseworlds, he says, if we're going to make an Elseworlds movie, we're going to hold it at a higher standard than what we even do for our DCEU projects. The idea that you have really got to bring sort of your A game with a story worth telling that's going to be impactful and certainly moving sort of thing. So the fact that he already holds that standard for Elseworlds movies and is still willing to give this Superman movie a shot, I think Ta-Nehisi Coates definitely has, I don't want to say an uphill climb, but it is one of those things where if it gets greenlit, I know how James Gunn feels about that particular script, if that makes sense. And for me, that definitely gets me excited that he truly is sort of putting story first above anything else. And that if something does get titled Elseworlds, they're bringing their A game. And so for me, that's really exciting. And I'm hoping, if anything, I'm hoping that gives Ta-Nehisi Coates also an idea of what to shoot and aim for when putting this film together. It already feels like it's going to be impactful, society, culturally driven or culturally changing, if you will, to a certain extent. So I do think it's going to be a really big film, but does the script hold up? And so I love the idea of him at least saying there's definitely a possibility, but this is where the bar is at also for that happening. So I love the idea that there's a potential here, Stuart. You know what I mean? But when you read this, I'm trying to find there we go. Boom. But when you hear these words from J.J. Abrams themselves, what do you think about all this?
No, I think that's a very fair standard to hold like Elseworld stories too, because obviously you're building up a universe and people are going to want to see where this universe leads. So if they see it's a one-off movie that's not even connected to that, it makes sense that in the mindset of a producer, the audience members wouldn't be as excited to see something that isn't really connected. So the idea of, okay, if you're going to make an Elseworld story and kind of lessen our chances of making money on this story, you got to really justify it with with it being a really good script. So totally see where he's coming from there. And yeah, I am very curious now to see if this movie gets greenlit. And it's good to know that if this movie doesn't get greenlit, it's not because James Gunn had the mindset of, well, we already have our own Superman. It's just that it didn't get greenlit because it just was a project that he didn't see a lot of profit in. So yeah, that actually gives me a lot more confidence in the future of the DC universe. It gives me a lot more a lot more excited just basically on what we could possibly see going forward, whether it be Elseworld stories or DC universe stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the fact that he's this open to at least given the script to read, seems pretty excited about it. He seems to know a little bit about it so far. But yeah, it definitely opens up other great Elseworld stories that could definitely be told, right? They have such a vast and rich library of characters and stories they can certainly sink their teeth into. Like, I'm keeping my fingers crossed still for like a Kingdom Come project, if they ever certainly make that happen one day. But again, I think you guys certainly bring your A game and certainly seem if it's worth it. But I feel like James Gunn is already showcasing his creative side and just that he's really not afraid to tackle those kind of stories as long as it makes sense. So I'm really eager to see where this goes. And if anything, I'll be fascinated to see, like, can the world handle a secondary Superman movie or not? I mean, look, we're handling Batman pretty good so far, but their DCU Batman's kind of in shambles right now. So it feels very much like Robert Pattinson's our only one right now.
Yeah. In fact, someone was even like kind of suggesting the idea if Robert Pattinson wouldn't mind doing it, why not just have Robert Pattinson play two different Batmans? You could keep the DC Universe Batman as Robert Pattinson, just, tell people like, this isn't the same Robert Pattinson Batman. Hey, they're doing it with Superman on the Arrowverse. You got the Arrowverse Superman played by Tyler Hoechlin, and now you got the Superman and Lois Superman played by Tyler Hoechlin. They do the same thing with Robert Pattinson.
Because that confused the hell out of me, Stuart. So no, I don't even want to. I don't even want to deal with the Tyler Hoechlin stuff. No way. But yeah, guys, look, this is exciting for me. We'll see if they actually greenlit this project, but there definitely is a life here for sure. But let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below in regards to that also. Awesome, Stuart. Yeah, man, I'm excited for it. We'll see. We'll see how what they do with the Superman. Who, do you have any like people in mind that you would cast? And don't say Michael B. Jordan, because
if Michael B. Jordan does his Superman movie, I want him to decide whether or not he wants to cast himself as Superman, because I could see it.
Yeah.
I could definitely see it, but I'm curious if he would be confident enough to like do that, or if he would just end up wanting to play it safe and hire someone else, because directing and acting as Superman, I can imagine that would be a very difficult task.
I can see him directing the film, but I don't know if I'm going to be cast in it also. I think he did such a great job for Creed as far as directing goes, that I really would, for me, it'd be really fun to kind of see what he would do with a Superman movie that he's producing himself, so it would be his vision. So I would be really curious to kind of see what that looks like. So yeah, I think there's plenty of room out there, man, for some great Black Superman stories to definitely be told. So I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I just I know that they haven't confirmed it one way or another, but I had heard like rumors that this Superman, who would also be just Clark Kent but black, I kind of hope that's not what they do. I hope that if it's like Superman that's black, I hope they go with one of the two that we have like in the comic books personally.
I mean, I'm with you there too. I mean, I think we got two great Black Supermen already. I personally love the idea of it. Was it Val Zod? He's not the President Superman. I'm thinking of President Superman.
Yeah, that one was, I believe, Calvin Ellis,
Kent,
right?
Or something like that. Yeah. Calvin Ellis. He's also a member of the Justice Incarnate, I think, in the most recent line of DC Comics. So a lot of potential there. I'm hoping that's the one that he decides to go ahead and tackle, because that just makes more sense to me. We've got two great Black Superman. I don't think we need to, change Clark Kent in regards to what's his story and things like that. I'd much rather have these other two characters focused on. Same reason why I want somebody like Icon from Milestone Comics to kind of come to life. Their version of sort of like their Superman. I want to see all these characters come to life, honestly.
Speaking of Milestone, I did hear James Gunn express interest in a Static Shock movie.
Yes, I think somebody had asked them the idea of, hey, are you going to do Static Shock and maybe any Milestone Comics characters? And he just said yes. So I am excited to see what they do. So I'll take that as a confirmation that we're going to Static Shock something at some point in time. Ram Jam out here says he wouldn't mind seeing a Black Superman movie. Yeah, I think we got some great storytellers and some great Black Superman out there that we can really focus on too. All right, Stuart, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, because we're going to get into our Star Wars bag here a little bit, man. Listen, after Star Wars Celebration and the announcement of 3 upcoming films that they have, I really continue to appreciate the idea of them dropping these 3 films during different eras and time periods that we have. They really seem to emphasize, Stuart, the eras of Star Wars, so that as a fan we can kind of understand and follow along chronologically where all these big events are certainly taking place. So they really got me excited with the direction in which they're going to be taking some of these films. Yes, if you want to be, pessimistic about the idea, well, they may not happen. We've seen how things happen with Lucasfilm. Look, I get all that, but I want to hold on to my excitement as a Star Wars fan from time to time. And so for me, the idea of these films coming out are pretty impactful, and I'm really excited to kind of see where they're definitely going to take us. This past week, Empire Magazine released two articles, one highlighting Kathleen Kennedy, another one highlighting Dave Filoni. And while they definitely focus on two different things, they really kind of connect as a bigger piece in regards to showcasing not only the importance of the Star Wars films that we're going to be getting, but the impact that these Star Wars films need to have. And so I thought that was pretty important. And when you get the opportunity to see their points of views on it, I think you'll get to see just how closely connected they possibly are as well. So let's go ahead and dive into this one, Stuart. Let me go ahead and bring this up here for us. We'll focus on the Kathleen Kennedy one here real quick. So this is Empire Magazine. They spoke with Kathleen Kennedy. She says she's looking to James Bond, the franchise James Bond, for how to eventize Star Wars movies. And look, as fans, we hunger for Star Wars movies. Star Wars should be done in theater on the big screen, that cinematic feel to it. And so, unfortunately, after the stumbling block that was the sequel trilogy, we definitely find Lucasfilm trying to right the ship, despite some of the icebergs that they've definitely have tried to dodge during this time period. They are finally putting together films, and Kathleen Kennedy is showcasing the importance of these movies. So let's go ahead and dive into this for Kathleen Kennedy here. This says, as Star Wars Day, aka May the 4th, comes around in 2023, it is now around 3.5 years since the Star Wars movies graced the big screen. When Episode 9 hit cinemas at the end of 2019, it marked not only the end of the Skywalker saga, but also a hiatus for the movie side of Star Wars storytelling. The focus clearly moved over to movies or to television series. But Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy recently confirmed plans for 3 new films at Star Wars Celebration. Now it's a question of when these 3 upcoming movies are expected to arrive. And as Kathleen Kennedy tells Empire, that's simply a case of when they're ready. She said, I've brought up Bond. She said, I've often brought up Bond, Kathleen Kennedy tells us at Star Wars Celebration. That's every 3 to 4 years. And there wasn't this pressure to feel like you had to make a movie every year. I feel that that was very important to Star Wars. We have to eventize this. The simple answer is nothing is likely to hit the multiplexes until at least 2025. It's much better to tell the truth, she says, that we're going to be making these movies when they're ready to be made and release them when they're ready to be released. So this feels very much to it like Kathleen Kennedy ain't waiting on our schedule. She definitely has this mindset of wanting to release these movies when they're ready. I think as fans, that's something that we have I don't want to say have been asking, hey, give us these movies when we're ready. I do think that sometimes we get so hungry for things that we want them now. We're very now. I need to have this now sort of mentality, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. And I think they learned that lesson from the sequel trilogy of trying to knock them out very quickly upon purchase of the of the Lucasfilm franchise. And now, if anything, I think this is maybe seeing I don't want to say an error in their ways, but definitely changing course and understanding the importance that these need to be event movies once again. But what do you think about what she's saying here?
When you read the title of the article, I thought she was going to mean something completely different when I heard her say, okay, like, oh no, turning Star Wars into James Bond. But then seeing that she just meant that they're going to be coming out when they're ready, and that usually probably means every 2 to 3 years. I'm okay with this. This honestly seems like a good strategy to start out with a new era of Star Wars movies. I think that, one of the biggest mistakes they made also, on top of not planning out the trilogy, I think it was releasing a little bit too much all at once. the exciting thing about Star Wars, back in the day was that when when the original trilogy was out and then when the prequel trilogy was out, even when we were getting the movies, it was once every 3 years. So going to another Star Wars movie, for me, because I watched all three prequel movies in theaters, each time it felt like an event. It didn't just feel like going to another movie. And one thing that was inevitably taken away from Star Wars, when Disney bought it, which we kind of knew was going to happen, was the event feel to it. It felt like an event when you saw, the episode 7, Force Awakens. I don't know why it took me a minute to remember that title. Didn't, but that felt like an event. But then that kind of feeling went away with Rogue One and the Last Jedi. They didn't feel like going to an event. They felt like I was going to another movie, and especially when seeing Solo, a Star Wars story, because that movie came out not even a year after the Last Jedi. So I think that was what kind of lost like the need to go see a Star Wars movie, what led to Star Wars fatigue a lot sooner than we should have had it, I think. Because, we're looking at superhero movies. It took 3 phases of Marvel movies for people to start feeling real superhero fatigue. It took only 5 Star Wars movies for fans to feel Star Wars fatigue. That's so I think, yeah, all this to say that I think starting out a new phase of Star Wars movie and releasing a new movie every, 2 to 4 years, I can't remember the exact year she said. I think that's a smart way to start it out. And it also gives them plenty of time to plan their next big like trilogy if they choose to do that. Gives them plenty of time to fix some of the mistakes they made with the previous trilogy.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. And I do wonder if anything with these 3 movies announced, how far apart are they going to be? Because I with them being in completely different eras, they may not necessarily affect each other like that, right? So, if you do mean we want to eventize this type of stuff, does that mean like, hey, we're gonna eventize these? Like these are big moments that are happening in each of these individual films, and then maybe the follow-up for those films aren't for another 3 to 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, so I am kind of curious as to when they're going to drop, but I appreciate her letting us know, like, hey, these are going to come when they're ready to come. There's no really set release dates as of right now, but they seemingly are working hard, and look, they want to get it right. You know what I mean? And if that means that 3 to 4 year time period, then feel free to take your time, Kathleen. Take your time. I want to see if there was anything else in regards to this. No, I think that was it in regards to hers. Okay. So, on top of that, not only did Kathleen Kennedy speak, but Dave Filoni came out and spoke also in regards to his upcoming movie and what he personally feels Star Wars movies should be. So will be interested to see if his perspective lines up with Kathleen or bumps heads with hers a little bit. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. This is from Empire Magazine also. It says Dave Filoni teases what his Star Wars movie will be. You're looking for moments that define an era. And he says Star Wars has always been about has always been about epic journeys, whether it's Luke Skywalker's transformation from farm boy to Jedi Master, Din Djarin's foray into fatherhood in The Mandalorian, or Rey's path to self-discovery in the sequel trilogy. A few Star Wars journeys have been as epic as that of Dave Filoni, the master himself, before creating his own corner of the galaxy and moving into the live action with Mando and beyond. Up next, though, he's directing a feature film, as confirmed by Kathleen Kennedy. Speculation abounds as to what the movie will involve. Is it another step into the wider Mandalorian Ahsoka Thrawn story, or could it be the culmination of the whole thing? This is what Filoni says. He says, culmination is an interesting word. Speaking to Empire at Star Wars Celebration, the way I look at it, there are small stories, and then there's the big story of the day two. A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi tell the important parts of the tale that really define the history of that period. There are all kinds of sub stories underneath that. We've been building all those small stories. If the Disney series have allowed time to establish these characters in the New Republic era they inhabit, the movie is all about creating a bigger picture. Filoni says, to me, a theatrical experience has to have a big idea, a monumental moment in that time period that changes what's happening. What Tony Gilroy has done in Andor and what we did in Rebels, everything then changes when Luke blows up the Death Star. You're looking at those moments that define an era. And that's what films really should be about, whether it's whether it's characters coming together or a defining moment. So it does say place your bets now for what the defining moment will be. What do you think about that, Stuart, in regards to his approach and his support, what he feels the importance to Star Wars movies truly are?
So okay, that's really interesting because yeah, what he brings up is like the idea of Luke destroying the Death Star. You know, if you watch that as it is as a movie in A New Hope, take it as face value, that's awesome in its own right. But then the idea that, you know, shows like Andor and Rebels build to that. They show you what led to Luke destroying that Death Star. All those things that kind of built up to that. And I like the idea of him bringing that up when it comes to this New Republic era, which of course takes place before the Rise of the First Order era. The idea that there could be some more defining moments that leads to, you know, the resistance group helping to destroy Starkiller Base, or, you know, defeating the First Order. There may be a little more things that kind of built to that we never learned about, and that I could see them, you know, kind of showing us within this New Republic era, within the new upcoming Star Wars movie that he's working on. The idea that if it's going to be a theatrical movie and if it's going to be about that era that he's been working on in television, it's got to have like a big moment that really defines that era and then just really leads into the Rise of the First Order. I find that fascinating, and I'm really excited to see whether or not that's the Rise of the First Order, or if it's like the first indications of Palpatine still being alive, whatever that may be. I'm kind of excited to see.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think there's something really cool about just the world building, you know, sort of behind it all, and kind of bouncing off of what Kathleen Kennedy said in the size a sense of like really wanting to eventize these movies. You know, what Dave Filoni is saying is like those are event movies, you know, like those are the big climactic sort of moments and defining moments in Star Wars eras that you need to certainly happen on the big screen. And that's really what those trilogies that we've gotten have definitely represented. But now the fact that we're getting these additional movies, I think, especially to kind of build into the timeline that we already have, just to showcase all these other big events that definitely have taken place. But the fact that you're leaving those big events for the theatrical experience, I think is extremely important. And so I love the work that they're doing in regards to just building up that world alone to get us to those big moments. Going back to the article here real quick, Stuart, he does, let me go ahead, can I pull it back up here? Okay, yeah. Going back to the article though, it does say, place your bets now for what those defining moments will be. With this fluid approach to storytelling, with characters weaving in and out of various series and mediums, Filoni is open to all possibilities. He says, I have ideas, of course. I will not tell you what they are. But with Thrawn then entering the play, the fall of the New Republic in the distance, and plenty of Legends canon material to draw from, it should make for a thrilling tale. He says, there are little things along the way that I've built across different mediums, all in preparation for things that come later, promises Filoni. Here's hoping his film won't be far away. God, this man is just a fucking genius, Stuart. I honestly, I honestly could listen to Dave Filoni talk Star Wars like all day long.
Mhm.
He has such a way of like hyping you up as a fan, by like giving you great nuggets and insightful pieces of information without really spoiling anything for you. Like he just knows how to be a hype man for real Star Wars nerds like ourselves. And so when he says little things like this, man, it really gets me excited for what's to come. Look, man, give me a Mara Jade. At some point in time, I'll definitely take that. If you want to literally recreate the Heir to the Empire trilogy, I would be more than happy if that's the route that you want to go ahead and create, Dave Filoni. I think a lot of people will certainly be happy about that. But if anything, Stuart, this just gets me hyped for the movies that have been greenlit. You know what I mean? And so the fact that we're getting not only just his movie, but I gotta think that that same mindset not only applies to his film, but everybody else's. I think I don't remember if it was in this article or another article that I might have read, where he also emphasizes um, seen Revenge of the Sith on the big screen and episode 3. And if you remember how that movie starts out, you start out in the middle of a battle in the stars
Mm-hmm.
with the cool aerial combat of Obi-Wan and Anakin cutting through the starships. I mean, when I saw on the big screen with the heavy bass of the fucking drums, the soundtrack was epic in a movie theater seeing that. And you open up to this big battle that's happening. Those are like defining moments that are needed for Star Wars on the big screen. And I think Dave Filoni understands that. And so when he puts together this culmination or this big event era, that's the type of visuals that I'm seeing, like Dave Filoni really trying to go for to capture our imagination and really bring his animation vision that he does so well to life, now sort of in live action. So I'm really eager for what this man's going to do. And I'm hoping that his knowledge for Star Wars spreads out to others that he surrounds himself with in regards to really helping James Mangold put this film together and the writers and directors of the upcoming Rey film. I really hope that they listen to what he's saying here, along with what Kathleen Kennedy is saying in regards to you want these event movies, and I really hope that they take that responsibility sort of very seriously in regards to building up these upcoming movies. But this gives me hope, Stuart. This gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope. I especially got excited when he mentioned, more Star Wars Legends to come, because that's the one thing he's done really well is adapting Star Wars Legends and fitting it into the new DC canon. Star Wars canon, my bad. Because he did it really well with Thrawn in Rebels. He did an amazing job with the Dark Troopers in The Mandalorian, especially in season 3, getting to see like the final or it's at least a different take on that final boss battle in the first Dark Forces game. I thought that was kind of amazing. So I look forward to seeing what other Legends material he decides to bring in. My fingers are of course crossed for Kyle Katarn and Dash
Yes.
Randar, my two favorite Legends characters.
Yeah, I was always a big Kyle fan, for sure. I always appreciated him, especially during I used to read a lot of the New Jedi Order series stuff with the Yuzan Vong and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to love them in there. I will say also, if anything, like this kind of opens my eyes to just I lost my train of thought. God damn it. It was just, oh, you know what? If anything, the fact that I appreciate that Dave Filoni does his homework, that he puts in the extra work, because, you brought up the idea of bringing Thrawn to life. He literally talks to Timothy Zahn. Like he really has these conversations so that he understands the character, so that not only does he stay true to Timothy Zahn's vision, but he tries to make him as believable as possible when it comes to adapting him in a live action, which doesn't seem like it's a very easy feat to do. But when you've got somebody like Dave Filoni that literally goes to the source and literally learns and goes out of his way to make sure that he's getting it right, I think that just shows the love that he has for it, just how good for this franchise that he is to certainly have around.
Yeah, and the fact that Timothy Zahn himself even has expressed appreciation for the way they've done Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really hope that mindset really carries over. But for me, I just thought that was an interesting piece by Empire, because it did feel like there are moments that Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni are sort of on the same page. So it's always great to see them talk about that. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, though. Here, Stuart. We're gonna jump from we're gonna go to more television here, real quick. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this because while I personally have not checked out the anime One Piece, it's getting its opportunity here in the States. They're going to be doing a live action series over on Netflix. And the creator of One Piece is actually in the news to give us a little bit of an update. And I am kind of curious, Stuart, to kind of know whether or not this gives you confidence, if you're worried or concerned, or certainly let me know your thoughts, man. So let's go ahead and dive into this. This one comes to us from Variety. It says the One Piece creator offers an update on the Netflix live action series. Will be setting sail very soon, is what he says. So let's go ahead and dive into this real quick here. All right. So this comes to us from Variety. It says the One Piece creator has offered fans an update on the upcoming live action series based off of the popular manga. It says, I've been working with Tomorrow Studios and Netflix for quite some time now. Even though they understand each of the characters, we obviously come from very different cultures. So when it comes to entertainment, we have different codes, skill sets, and aims. Sometimes it could be frustrating for both sides. It felt like we're all trying to get to the same place, so how come we're not on the same wavelength? There was even a time when I thought, is a foreign production even possible? Oda went on to say that involved in the show have been hard at work this entire time, and that each and every entity involved is working in sync. And while it was previously announced that the show would debut in 2023, he says, they've promised that we won't launch it until I'm satisfied. So that's what the creator for One Piece is saying as they continue to try and put together this live action adaptation for this series. Stuart, this sounds like this is certainly a challenge. One that it seems like they are very much still hard at work at. It definitely doesn't come across like they've given up. But I'm sure just based off of what he says, he definitely seems to have had his doubts in regards to it. How do you take what he said, though? As somebody, and I'm sure you probably have maybe your own experience and background with One Piece. So hearing about this from the creator himself, how are you feeling about his thoughts?
Well, I've never watched or One
Oh,
Piece
you
or read
haven't?
any of
Okay.
the manga, but as someone who loved Dragon Ball Z back in the day and hated Dragon Ball Evolution, the things that I'm hearing from this are a lot more promising than what we got with Dragon Ball Evolution. I mean, the fact alone that that he seems to have more involvement than Akira Toriyama, who, according to him, was given the name executive producer, but he had little to nothing to do with the actual product of Dragon Ball Evolution. All the notes he tried to send the studio were completely ignored, never even looked at. So, there was a lot of disappointment there from his end. So here, at least it's cool that they're allowing him to, not only be on set, but also seemingly be involved in some of the creative decisions going forward, to the point where they won't even release it until he's satisfied with the final product. I do like that. So even if this show doesn't end up turning out good, at least you can know that they at least did everything with, to please the original creator, which is just something that is very, very rare to see. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, that's actually pretty refreshing. And I do think Blossom did come through with yet another super chat. Thank you so much, Blossom, saying One Piece. I got a cosplay of Nami. Her design is my favorite. And then Blossom also says, I heard the creator is married to Nami's stage actress. I did not know that. But thank you so much once again, Blossom, for the support to the channel. I promise you it will definitely go to good use. So thank you so much for the support. But yeah, man. Stuart, if anything, I will say this. I definitely agree with you. Like for me, I do appreciate the idea of um, that they have promised him, we're not going to do this until you're satisfied. To me, that gives a lot of faith in allowing the creator to certainly create. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Netflix probably has their studio fingers all over this as best as they possibly can to some certain extent, or at least given a lot of notes to certainly kind of, you know, change things a little bit. Like he said, they have the same vision of where they want to go, but the process of getting there is definitely a little bit difficult and frustrating at times. But I think the fact that they're trying to work through it is inspiring. I feel like, especially in the time and day where it's like having two completely polar opposites automatically make you enemies, and you just, no negotiations, you don't talk things through, you just cut ties and go on your own way, sort of thing. So like for me, I kind of appreciate the idea of them working through their differences, and trying to create a show that is satisfying and that lives up to the expectations that the creator has, so much as what Netflix certainly has in mind for us. And look, I don't think that this is a easy task, like at all. Like I just think, like, while I personally haven't read the manga, like I just feel there's so many characters, there's so many freaking episodes, like I wonder what their vision of trying to really fit that sort of storytelling into live action will certainly look like, and especially visually also. So I do think there's definitely going to be a lot of hurdles. And while he's expressed those difficulties and those hurdles, there is something promising about the idea of everybody still working hard at work. We're going to get through this. We're going to make it work. And hopefully we'll get the vision that we're certainly, that he certainly wants. So for me, it's, it may be worrisome, maybe for some people, but I definitely do look at it as inspiring, you know what I mean? To a certain extent.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's, even though I've never watched that much One Piece, it doesn't look like an anime that translates to live action very well. Like I could probably name 20 other anime that I could do in live action way easier than One Piece. So I, at the very least, got to give him kudos for attempting this. This is ambitious, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a perfect word for it, ambitious. So it's definitely going to have its difficulties from time to time. But let us know your thoughts, guys. You hear from the creator. The fact that I think, again, that he's attached to this project, that they're not necessarily fully doing this without his say, to me is always eye-opening. I love the combination. I love the comparison that you gave about DBZ. And the idea of not having the creator as connected to the production of that, I think that is definitely valuable, and I think that'll go certainly a long way. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes. All right, guys. The next topic that we want to go ahead and bring your way today, Mortal Kombat is back in the news. Stuart, real quick, how did you feel about the Mortal Kombat movie that dropped on HBO Max? Tell me again.
Gotta be honest. I didn't hate it as much as everyone else. It was exactly what I expected and I kind of had a good time with it. I didn't think it was bad.
Okay. So I just wanted to get your perspective. I remember watching it, but I don't remember it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not memorable enough.
It's not.
So if anything, my level of excitement for a number two, look, I think it probably did killer numbers, no pun intended, when it dropped on HBO Max. I think a lot of people were hyped for it. The fight sequences and stuff, I mean, all great, you know what I mean? But as far as like substance, I am, for me, I definitely wanted more out of it. And so I felt it was definitely lacking in some areas, to the point to where I barely remember this movie. But Mortal Kombat 2 is definitely happening. A sequel should not surprise anybody, as a sequel is certainly on its way. And I will be curious to see where they go with the story next. But we actually have some casting news in regards to it. Look, I think at the end of the Mortal Kombat movie, did they not tease Johnny Cage at some point in time? Johnny Cage is certainly supposed to be coming. And if this article is correct, they have in fact landed on somebody and are currently in final talks. So Stuart, let's go ahead and talk about this, because it seems as though Mortal Kombat 2 has found its Johnny Cage in none other than Karl Urban. What? What is happening right now? Karl Urban in final talks to play Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2. You know, Stuart, this kind of goes back to what we mentioned before about like when we do fantasy casting, right? Like when we fan cast for characters that we have in mind, and people get really pissed off like when their actor isn't chosen, right? And one of the things that I said was, look, sometimes we got a completely different vision for the character than what the writer certainly has. And in this case, Stuart, we're on different wavelengths, my guy, because Karl Urban is not my first choice for Johnny Cage, and I honestly do not know. I honestly do not know the direction they are taking this character. Um, Look, I like Karl Urban. I'm just gonna say though, not my first choice. But let's maybe dive into the article. I don't know if it's going to give me any other reassuring comments, but Karl Urban is in his final talks to star as a fan favorite character, Johnny Cage, in the sequel to New Line's 2021 action adventure Mortal Kombat. Simon McQuaid, who directed the 2021 film, is set to return. Jeremy Slater from Umbrella Academy and Moon Knight wrote the screenplay for the sequel. That's inspiring. The previous film was a new adaptation. Okay, we already know about that. The post-credit scene at the end of the film teased the inclusion of Johnny Cage in the sequel. Man, is that really? That's really all of it, Stuart. Yeah, that's really all of it. He's in final talks. I thought it was going to give us maybe some more details, but that's really it. Tell me, man, how are you feeling about this, Stuart?
So maybe not my first choice, only because I was assuming that they would be casting like younger. But I love this. I am excited. Not gonna lie, when you were kind of building up like your thoughts, I actually thought you were going to go in a very different direction. I was very surprised because very different from the kind of take that they had on Johnny Cage in the original like 90s Mortal Kombat movie, but very much how I imagine Johnny Cage when playing him on the 16-bit Sega Genesis version of Mortal Kombat. Basically, when you have to rely on those pixelated sprites and you're trying to put like a person in your head when playing it. A Karl Urban douchebag type, actor type dude. That's how I imagine Johnny Cage. I don't imagine him the way he was played in the 90s movies. So I think Karl Urban is the perfect actor for how I imagine Johnny Cage, basically.
I love it, Stuart. I absolutely love it. He just was, I guess maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just showing my old ass self in regards to having a different vision. I just envisioned a younger Johnny Cage. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how old Karl Urban is. But like personality wise, yeah, I could totally see it. I don't think it comes across too on the nose for the boys or anything like that. But I mean, if you're looking for a sarcastic asshole, yeah, Karl, you got it in Karl Urban for sure, and he could definitely do that like Hollywood douchebaggy type. But so for me, if anything, I was just thinking younger, maybe more martial arts experience, maybe. I don't know, but it just didn't fit Johnny Cage for me. But I'm glad that you're pumped for this, man. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, see, when I heard Karl Urban, I was like, Kano? But no, not Kano.
Yeah, no, my mind now always just goes to his character from The Boys.
Yeah, right. At this point. So yeah, guys, let us know. Maybe I'm tripping. How do you guys feel about Karl Urban possibly playing Johnny Cage? Again, this is what I mentioned. This is one of those things where my fantasy casting definitely doesn't line up with Jeremy Slater's here. But again, I have no idea what he's writing, how he's writing these characters, and maybe this certainly fits the bill perfectly. But I will say, while it didn't have a lot of information about Karl Urban, the idea of Jeremy Slater being brought on board as a writer for me is more promising, because if you guys recall, the original Mortal Kombat movie was written by a first-time writer. I think it was like his first time that he had written a big budget film or a big feature film. So the fact that we have somebody like Jeremy Slater kind of coming on board does give me confidence that maybe we might have a much more solid script in the original one. But that's me keeping my fingers crossed. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Is that how you feel
And
about it?
yeah, because unfortunately, I hope this doesn't come off as mean, but you can definitely tell someone's first script. And I'm not saying he can't improve. Obviously, everyone can improve, but you can definitely tell it's a first script for the person. But yeah, I am really looking forward to seeing how the second one is written. Personally, I think you could have a lot more fun if you just made it a tournament movie, which is kind of what they built up to at the end of the first movie. But I mean, it gives you an excuse to not only have allies fighting each other and thus being put in tricky situations. It also gives you a cool excuse to have certain character moments in between battles.
Yeah. I dig that. I hope that's the route that they certainly go. I think the idea of them bringing in another writer shows that they realize they got to make changes somewhere. So we'll see how the second one turns out. But yeah, guys, give us your thoughts on Karl Urban as Johnny Cage. All right, and moving on to our last topic, we're going to be revisiting one of those classics. Was this an 80s movie? The 90s movie? Let me go ahead and pull this up. I probably should have figured that out real quick. 1993, we were graced with an epic action adventure by the name of Cliffhanger, ladies and gentlemen, starring Sylvester Stallone himself. It says IMBD says a botched mid-air heist results in suitcases full of cash being searched for by various groups throughout the Rocky Mountains. And I think you've got Cliffhanger here himself, good old Sylvester Stallone. It was an outdoor thriller in which a former mountain rescuer is pitted against a group of criminals who've lost $100 million in cash during their plane crash. We're apparently getting ourselves a sequel, baby. Sylvester Stallone is putting back on his Rock Mountain gear, and he's going to be traversing another mountain, guys. Let's go ahead. I really don't know if that's the plot of the movie, but Sylvester Stallone is back. We're going to be getting ourselves a Cliffhanger sequel. So I thought that was pretty fascinating, Stuart. Let's go ahead and bring this up here real quick. Here we go. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. That says Sylvester Stallone sets Cliffhanger reboot with The Angel Has Fallen director. Have you ever seen that film? The Angel Has Fallen?
No, I remember there were like two movies that came out that year. One of them was Has Fallen. The other one was another movie with the exact same plot, and I can't remember the name of it, but I just remember thinking they looked like they were the exact same film.
Yeah, it was like the president or something like that getting kidnapped, or White House being attacked, right? And they had like the Secret Service agent that had to protect them.
Yeah, and then the president had to learn self-defense in the middle of it, and I think that happens in both versions.
Yeah, man. But we're getting ourselves a Cliffhanger movie by that guy that directed that movie. Let's go ahead and dive into this real quick, Stuart. This says Sylvester Stallone is ready to scale new heights with the reboot of his 1993 action thriller. Have you seen the original, Stuart?
No, I was actually wanting to watch it Saturday night, but I got off work really, really late yesterday, so I just didn't have a chance to.
It says Rick Roman, who helmed the action movies Angel Has Fallen and Greenland, is set to direct the feature, which will see Stallone reprise his role of mountain climber and rescue ranger. Gabe Walker, that was his name, Gabe Walker. The reboot has a script by Mark Bianculli, a writer, consultant, producer on Amazon series The Hunter. Neil Horitz, original film, best known for the multi-billion-dollar Fast and the Furious franchise, will produce the production as well. Yeah, so we're going to be getting another one here. I'm trying to see if it says. Here we go. It says, growing up with the biggest action films of the 80s and 90s, working on many of them myself, Cliffhanger was by far one of my favorite spectacles. To be at the helm of the next chapter, scaling the Italian Alps with the legend himself, Sylvester Stallone, is a dream come true. It's going to be a great challenge and blast, taking this franchise to new heights and a responsibility I don't take lightly. I don't take lightly. So yeah, we're getting a new one. Look, you know what? I'm gonna be honest, Stuart. It's been years since I've checked out Cliffhanger. I probably would want to go ahead and refresh my memory and go ahead and see this film again because it has been a minute. But if anything, I almost think it's kind of interesting timing for this movie, and I say that just because rock climbing has become such a much bigger popular sport than it has been in years. Like for me, I even watched recently a rock climbing Netflix documentary of like these gentlemen climbing all different types of mountains with like no rope, just their equipment and just scaling these monstrosities, dude. Like how these people survive like for so long doing this stuff is unbelievable to me. But the Netflix documentary literally specifically focused on like one person. And you get to watch this man just scale these incredible mountains, not just regular mountains, but like ice mountains too. Like he literally put his like genius and prodigy like to just crushing these huge mountains. And I feel like it's almost like a fitness thing now too, right? A lot of people do like for as a hobby, recreational stuff. They go, mountain climbing or just rock climbing sort of thing. So I do think the growth of this sport has certainly grown to the heights that it is, where a sequel to Cliffhanger actually probably would be pretty cool during this time period that we're currently in right now. So I find it interesting timing, and I think Sylvester Stallone might be onto something here because I do think that there is an audience for a Cliffhanger sequel right now. And Sylvester Stallone hasn't really fallen off. I still think he's a really great actor. I do think he could pull off this role once again. But yeah, I'm down for this, Stuart. What about you?
Yeah. If it looks good, and or I'll probably watch it at some point regardless. But I always love it when a reboot of a movie I haven't seen like comes out because it gives me an excuse to like check out the original and see what I've been missing out and see what I've been missing out on all these years. And yeah, to see how the new one is. It's also like kind of fun too when it's this type of a sequel where it's like years later, because you can not only see like how much the actors have grown since then, but you can also see how much film itself has changed since then, like the filmmaking techniques that they use, way things are shot. And it's kind of fun to try to look for those homages to the original.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm expecting some beautiful shots with some drones and shit. I'm hoping for some really great angles, something that you got to see like on an IMAX screen to really kind of like appreciate just like nature and just how huge some of these mountains are that he's going to be traversing. I do wonder what the plot's going to be. You can't crash another plane and millions of dollars. So I do wonder if maybe it's like an avalanche rescue or something like that. I'm really interested to kind of see what you get into on a mountain. So yeah, we'll see, guys. Let us know your thoughts. What did you guys think about the first Cliffhanger? If you've ever revisited the 1993 film by Sylvester Stallone, and are you up for a possible sequel here? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that, that will wrap up all of our main topics for the day, man. Not too bad, brother. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I think we had some good conversations, man. We crushed some really important topics today. Had some really fun deep dives, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
But Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. It is time for live viewer questions.
And we always appreciate your guys' questions. Should we put on some music? Should we put on some music for this segment again? Yeah, we're gonna put some background music on here for some. Yeah, let's get into
it's pretty chill.
Yeah, a little chill mood right now, shall we? Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So for those of you who would like to go ahead and drop a live viewer question, how do you go about doing that? It's pretty simple, man. Pretty simple. I'm going to walk you through it right now. If I actually had my YouTube channel up. Hold on one moment. I promise it's a lot simpler than this, y'all. All right, so all you're going to do is just simply just going to go over to our main page here, our YouTube channel, A Plus Hero Report.
It's not showing. Oh,
Boom, there you go. You can
yeah.
find us there. Click on this community tab right here. And usually anytime after Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to be posting a live viewer question post, as you can see right here. Once that's up, submit your question over, guys, and we'll tackle them for you. We got 20 questions today, Stuart. People are back. They're back with more questions.
Awesome.
So let's go ahead and tackle this. Blossom, do you remember the Rangers having civilian powers like the Beetleborgs did? Sort of thought of bringing them back for our Tokuger adaptation, like Zachary having clairvoyance or Sam having telekinesis. But yeah, do you remember the Rangers having civilian powers like the Beetleborgs did?
Yeah, during a good majority of the Disney era. Yeah, I thought they were okay. It felt like one of those things that were it's like they rarely remembered that they had them at times, though.
How do you feel about the concept of civilian powers? Like, they tackled that also in the 2017 Power Ranger movie.
Oh yeah,
they had civilian powers also.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the idea of them. I like the idea of the way it was done in the Power Rangers 2017 movie, where it's like they still have a lot of their enhanced strength. It's just it's just not at full power until they morph. I kind of like that idea, and I wouldn't mind seeing that done in an actual season.
Honestly, maybe I gotta go back and revisit some of these seasons to watch and see how some of their civilian powers have been used, but I'm not really necessarily the biggest fan of it. Not that I have anything against it, like that's cool, but I don't know. I just, for me, I just rather their powers only be accessible when they morph. I'd like that vulnerability and helplessness of not being in costume and having those powers to kind of rely on. Until you actually morph. So for me, it just kind of raises the stakes a little bit of having them more vulnerable. So that's the reason why I'm really not the biggest fan of it. But yeah, if you appreciate it, awesome. Because I do like the way some of them were utilized in the past for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Who's next?
Oh, they did technically bring him back for Beast Morphers. I just realized, because remember, what was it? Devin was really fast.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember the other two. Right, the Blue Ranger was super strong. The Yellow Ranger could jump really high. I can't believe I forgot both their names.
But Robbie can do that. Robbie did have that same strength?
Yeah, he has the strength
costume,
even
right?
outside the suit.
Outside
yeah.
the suit? Okay. Let's see. That's a good remember. I appreciate you getting that. Marcelino, back in the early days of Owlverse, there was a tradition where at the end of a season, one of the main characters would be killed off or written off of the show. Sometimes it would be emotional and impactful, like Tommy Merlin or Henry Allen. And sometimes it would piss people off, like Laura Lance. Were you glad that in the later seasons of the Arrowverse they went away from that, or do you miss that trope? I kind of miss the trope. But that's just me. I just like stakes. I do. I like the idea of understanding. Like, look, you're vigilantes. You guys literally have no power. Like, if they, especially, if they were to be killed off, whatever the case may be, I just think that's just what comes with the territory of being a superhero, and I just think that's a realistic aspect to being a vigilante. So, like, I know people were pissed off that they killed Laurel Lance off. I was like, yes. I just didn't care for her as Black Canary. I was such a Sarah Lance fan. So I didn't care for people being upset about the Laurel Lance stuff, but it's a trope I want back. I kind of miss it, Stuart. Does that make me an asshole?
Yes, totally. No, I'm kidding. No, I just feel like if it's every time at the end of the season, then you kind of like, it makes it less impactful because you expect it. I think it's just better. Like, you shouldn't be afraid to kill your characters off in a show, but you just shouldn't like leave it to the very end of the season as like kind of a tradition. It should be unexpected. We shouldn't see it coming. It should be like Walking Dead, where it's like it can just happen at any moment.
I get you. Yeah, no, I totally get you on that in that regards. The fact that it happens at the end of the season. For me, I'm cool with it happen. Well, I guess I really don't care. For me, I don't want to say I don't care because you're right. The predictability of it's like, oh, somebody's gonna die in this one. So maybe not even the finale. Maybe like the penultimate episode. Maybe like 2 or 3 episodes before. Then I'm perfectly cool with it. But for me, I just dig it because it just feels like the stakes are higher. But I get you totally. Nicole Robertson's here. What's up, Nicole? Good to see you in here today. All right. So, Marcelino, yeah, there are a lot of questions. So, if anything, save that second question for next week. Jessica Friedman, if Superman and Lois gets a 4th season, do you think they should leave Smallville and go back to Metropolis? And would you like to see a Power Rangers SPA series starring Aisha and Adam? I was like, Power Rangers Spa series? What do you do in that type of series? Oh, SPA. Okay, I'm sorry, Jessica. Yeah. So for a 4th season, if they do get a 4th season, do you want them to leave Smallville, Stuart, or go back to Metropolis, or what?
Yeah, I've been hearing that as a rumor that might be what happens, and I wouldn't mind that. It would be cheaper to film, from what I hear, and therefore they could actually do a lot more with the special effects budget, and plus it would just give us something new too.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I would be down. I think there's a part of me that does want them to go back to Metropolis, but to be fair, I haven't really watched seasons 2 and 3 very much, to really give an opinion like about how I feel about Smallville. Like, oh, it's too small. I'm just, Metropolis just feels so Superman to me. But I have appreciated what they've been able to do in Smallville. From what I have seen, I've really enjoyed the location. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm cool with whatever. Um, would I like to see a Power Ranger SPA series starring Aisha and Adam? No, I'm good. I'm good. What about you, Stuart?
I wouldn't have to really star Aisha and Adam per se, but yeah, I think in general an SPA series could be kind of cool. I wouldn't want it to have like kind of the usual like Power Ranger budget though. I feel like if you're going to do a SPA where it's like clearly they're like space explorers, like I want to see them give it like a little bigger than a Power Ranger budget. It's got to be decent enough to really sell me on the fact that they're in space.
I get you. You went like some Stargate, Star Trek.
Yeah,
Like,
like it doesn't have to be like current Star Trek budget, but like let's say how about like next gen budget?
okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
give me a next gen budget Power Ranger show.
We got Ram Jam next. He says, "Hey Adam, how's it going? Hope you and the family are doing well. A couple questions. If you got a chance, watch an interview that Andre, comedy nerd, did with Ron Wasserman. If not, here's the link. Okay, I have to check that out. I'm sorry, Ram Jam. I didn't get a chance to check that out beforehand. After the Flash movie, do you think we will see Michael Keaton reprise his role as Batman? Keep up the good work." Ooh, that's a good question, Stuart. Look. Batgirl did get canceled. Yes, I will refresh the page. Let me refresh this page real quick for you, Nicole. Batgirl did get canceled, Stuart. We knew that Michael Keaton was supposed to have a pretty big presence in that movie. I hear that he was also supposed to be in Aquaman 2. I don't know if he's in that though anymore. If they cut that scene out.
From what I heard, they reshot it with Ben Affleck, and then
Oh, really?
and now that might be cut out of the movie too.
Okay, so that's look, that's interesting. I was hoping that maybe the Aquaman scene would still stay in there just to give Michael Keaton a chance of returning. Because boy, I tell you, man, I think there's just such a Batman Beyond there somewhere in some capacity. And I think James Gunn is a smart enough man to know that or realize that. But there's a lot of moving pieces right now, and I just don't know. But I'm gonna say yes, Stuart. I'm gonna say yes. I do think James Gunn, maybe he didn't like what was done with the character or how he was built into the DCU, but I'm hoping that if Michael Keaton is open to it, I'm hoping there's a future there. So I will say yes, Stuart. What about you?
I want to say yes because I do love Michael Keaton's Batman, and I'm really looking forward to him in Flashpoint. But if they got him, I don't see him as a Batman for a long period of time. I see it being a very temporary thing, and seeing how they want this to kind of be like, a DC universe with a Batman that can commit to the role for, several years. I don't think they would want to take that risk with Michael Keaton, but I could still see him returning if they do like another either Elseworlds like movie, like if they want to do a Batman Beyond movie still, but have that be an Elseworlds film. I could totally see him go in that direction. Or if they do like another like Crisis type event, but with the DC universe instead of the Arrowverse, I could definitely see him coming back in that type of an event story.
Yeah, I'm definitely not under any impression that Homeboy would be like our next Batman. Like, there's no way, like, on a full time role. But seeing him come back as Batman or Bruce Wayne to have a significant role or as a mentorship, I can still see that sort of happening. But we'll see. If anything, who knows what James Gunn's future is going to do? But I just think he's too smart of a man to be like, man, we got Michael Keaton for this Flash movie. It's hopefully going to be extremely well received. Take a lot of money. People are gonna want to see him back. I just gotta think he finds some way to bring him back in some capacity. But we'll see, man. Keep my fingers crossed. That's for sure. Johnny Marrero. Do you think we will see more Min Kwan in the future? What do you think, Stuart?
I think it's a huge possibility if they decide to keep the show going after Cosmic Fury. I definitely feel like the next team we're going to see is probably going to be led by her.
Yeah, I'm really hoping so. I do think we can see more of her. Simon Bennett had really glowing comments of Min Kwan, Charlie Kirsch this week. Very, very glowing compliments, and I definitely agree with him in the sense that just give her more time. She'll definitely even break into this character even more, I think. But I definitely do think she can certainly carry that stardom. Do you think the new TMNT Mutant Mayhem movie will lead to more spinoffs in the near future? I think if it's well received, yeah. Maybe another Nickelodeon television series spinoff out of this or something like that, or a Netflix or another streaming service sort of spinoff series perhaps. So I do think there's potential there if it does well. If it's well received, then yeah, but who knows? What do you think, Stuart?
Yeah, if it's well received, I see them more like focusing on just like kind of sequels, not necessarily spinoffs for going forward. But if those sequels do good, then I could see spinoffs in the future.
And then who we got? We got did I lose? Oh, there we go. Datilla, which shows and or movies will be hurt or affected by the WGA strike? If you recall, the 2007-2008 strike affected a lot of movies and shows. Yeah, we kind of highlighted that at the top in our main topic. So I guess your question was technically our main or our honorable mention here today that we certainly talked about. So I hope some of the insight that we were able to give you earlier was definitely eye-opening in regards to that. But I'm trying to think if there's any other shows, Stuart, that maybe wasn't that we didn't talk about that might be affected. You got any off the top of your head that you know of?
Probably Creature Commando and Waller, both of which I think are supposed to come out next year, but they're probably going to be delayed.
Yes, you might be right in regards to that. Let me see.
And then if Superman and Lois gets renewed, that'll definitely be a show that gets affected.
Yeah, that's definitely another one. I was trying to see if there was like an updated. Is there like a up to the hour like list of like shows that have been affected that are as they roll out? That I don't know, but a lot of stuff is going to be affected. And again, we even talked about shows that were in production right now, or at least like getting ready to start filming, because one of the ideas of having a writer on board is to make script changes and corrections and if something comes up in the middle of filming. So it feels very much like, look, if you're about to go in front of the camera and the strike is happening, you're very much locked into the script that you're kind of given, and can hopefully create a solid movie with what you got, without having to do sort of any other rewrites on there. And again, we're also seeing a lot of showrunners that are WGA members, but are also at the same time, can do other producing duties as a showrunner, who are not going back, also kind of striking on all their work in support of the WGA. We've seen some of the companies out there really trying to demand their workers to get back to work. If you're a showrunner, we still need you in that capacity. You may not have to write anything, but you still have to kind of come to work. So a lot of the shows in the television and a lot of the films that we are really about to enter production are certainly going to be affected by this. So definitely we'll try and keep you guys as updated as we possibly can. And if you guys want to be updated on things like that, check us out on our Facebook page. Every day we're keeping you guys updated in what's going on. That's where we get all of our main topics to talk about from. So check out our Facebook page on a daily basis. You'll definitely be caught up in regards to whether your favorite movie or television show has been affected by this. Doomsday, this kind of ties back to my question from last stream. During the filming of Guardians of the Galaxy, who do you think had it worse between Zoe Saldana and Dave Bautista?
I'd say Dave Bautista, because unless you're referring to just the third one, because I think in the first one, Dave Bautista's shirtless most of it. So it wasn't just like his face and arms that had to get painted. It was like his whole body. Whereas I think with Gamora, it was like her arms and her face. So I'd say probably Dave Bautista had it just a little bit harder.
Yeah, if I had to pick anybody, I probably would go with Dave for sure on that one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Power Rangers Legacy, the key to future Power Ranger team-ups. You know how the 25th anniversary episode of Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel Dimensions in Danger? While it wasn't that great of an anniversary episode, what I found really cool and beneficial was the Dimension Transport device that Wes introduced, which was created by the Time Force Rangers. Why I found this device really fascinating was that if Power Rangers were to continue in the future in our current franchise, or either if it takes place in another alternate dimension or the main universe, it's the best and easiest way for a team-up and crossover to happen. As long as the device itself finds its way to that new team, it would be the best way to bring back past Rangers teams to and from our current universe. This device already helped establish that both RPM and Dino Charge were in two separate dimensions when Wes brought over Coda and Gemma. I think that's a really good point that he's making there. Gemma most definitely gave Dr. K the same remote when she appeared in the Beast Morpher's penultimate episode Source Code to help with Nate after he learned he was the one who recreated Evox or Vengeance. We already saw that Jason had that exact same device and grid connection after Devin called him from the morphing grid. Likely the MMPR team handed Jason the device from either Tommy or Rocky when they jumped out of the portal before the battle. So as for Jonathan Entwistle's reboot, if they were to ever cross over with our franchise, and if Hasbro were to continue Power Rangers while filming the reboot, we can just assume that the remote somehow got lost in time due to some weird time travel experiment. I wouldn't even necessarily say that it had to get lost in some time. I mean, I don't think there's anything to say that the dimension in which Power Rangers franchise takes place in doesn't eventually discover the Jonathan Entwistle reboot, and then all they would have to do, I would assume, is attune their remote to be able to access that alternate one. And look, if good old Austin St. John or David Yost wants to jump through a portal and pop up in the kids programming world on Jonathan Entwistle's reboot, I think that's totally plausible, bro. I totally think so. I mean, I think you make a good point, Power Rangers Legacy, and bringing, because we've kind of talked about that before, I thought, Stuart, about there's an opportunity, because we already are dealing with the multiverse when it comes to Power Rangers, that you can create your Jonathan Entwistle reboot if you want to, and still have that possibility of introducing or including the other franchises, if that's something that you eventually want to do. But the idea that Power Rangers Legacy literally lets us know, hey, just look back at an object that already exists in Power Rangers that would make something capable like that. I think that's some pretty good points there.
Yeah, I agree. I think because they introduced the multiverse so sorry, because the multiverse is well established in the Power Rangers universe, is what I meant to say. I could definitely see Jonathan Entwistle's series, despite probably being in a new universe, I could still see it crossing over into the main timeline at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you for that, Power Ranger Legacy. Adam Perea in Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. How do you think the Rangers defeat Lord Zed this time? And do you want him to actually be destroyed or sent back to the original timeline? Considering he is the real Lord Zed from MMPR, but just reincarnated from when he was at his most powerful. Do you see him being destroyed or instead seeing him disappear back to the original timeline? We know that actual Lord Zed was turned human at the end of Power Rangers in Space and still exists. So if they destroy Zed, like nothing will happen to the timeline. What do you think, Stuart?
Well, what I wonder is with this Zed that was been ripped out of his timeline, was he like actually ripped out of the timeline, or when he was reincarnated did they take like the good Zed and reincarnate the evil Zed into the good Zed, so the good Zed is literally still there? Because if so, then I'd like to see that be how they defeat Zed. They get rid of the evil in him and they bring back the good Zed that we saw at the very end of In Space. That's how I think they could do that.
I do wonder if this is where Billy comes in for his cameo, if we get that in Cosmic Fury. I wonder if he's like the one that has the insight in regards to how to defeat Lord Zed. Like, I think the idea of him accidentally tapping into Rita instead of Zordon and sort of pulling her out. I wonder if he has a way of like, maybe the Lord Zed thing is kind of the same thing in a sense, right? Like the reincarnation monster maybe took that entity, maybe, and sort of, of what that being was, Lord Zed back in the day, and recreating them maybe from that. And I wonder if like Billy will come along and be like, oh, and we just sucked the molecular structure out of this being's body. And, like, I wonder.
Reverse the polarities.
Yeah, reverse the polarity, send them back into the wavelength, maybe something along those lines. So maybe that's what we get. But so I do want to see him actually destroyed, but I do think it'll be a combination of destroying and some sort of scientific gadget to put things back right. So yeah. The most talented man in the world is back. What's up, man? What do you think when movies have a limited release? Basically to build the anticipation rather than releasing it in all movie theaters. Not all movies will be a box office success, no matter if the reviews are positive, mixed, or negative. Should more movies have limited releases? That way a sequel can still be possible. Example, the 2015 action film Sicario was released in limited theaters, yet became a huge hit when it was spawned even a sequel. So what do you think of movies when they have a limited release? Is it to basically build anticipation rather than releasing it into all movie theaters?
I don't know. The vibe I always get from a limited release is that movie theaters are just not confident with it, and so they don't want it taking up too much space for too much time.
I also wonder too if it's like I wonder if it's a combination of that and just maybe the production budget. Maybe they don't have enough like funds to put it into a widescreen release, and so they can only do a limited release of it. Is that a thing too?
That would make sense too. I can't remember exactly how the logistics of it works, but that would make sense if the production budget was too high, so they didn't have enough money afterwards to release it, like in a
because I usually feel like limited releases. I don't want to say they're always like independent movies, but I do think maybe it can sometimes be a testing of the waters to kind of see like, is there even an audience for this? And if it's well received other places, usually like at festivals and things like that, then sometimes they'll release it like limited. And if people actually come out to see it, then it can get the opportunity to come into a bigger release. And I think that probably goes in line with what you stated, right, Stuart, that if they do limited release it and it makes money, then maybe the theaters would be like, you know what, maybe we should open this up and give this a bigger screen release. So
yeah, I do think that would make sense.
So I do think it's a combination of the two, maybe. Francois, with there being a Spider-Man 4 in the works and Tom Holland returning, is this now produced by Sony or still with the MCU? I've heard from other YouTubers who are also movie reviewers saying that the end scene in No Way Home of Peter back in his classic red and Spidey suit swinging was a way for him to be released from the MCU, giving him a small soft reboot where Sony can pick up the character and use him for future projects. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You've talked a lot about Sony in the past. Look, I will say this. I never really looked at it in the sense of it being a release from the MCU so that he can have a soft reboot over at Sony. I've always been under the impression that at some point in time, Tom Holland was gonna be in Sony movies. Like I felt like they were building up that Sony universe, that Spider-Man-less universe, so that Tom Holland has something to kind of step into. But the more and more I think about it, Stuart, I think this Sony and Marvel team up is so incredibly successful. Yeah, maybe Sony probably wants Tom Holland, their Peter Parker back, but at the cost of what? How much money are you going to lose? The team up with the MCU has been extremely beneficial. And trust me, it's not because you've been doing this on your own, okay? And so there's a part of me, and I think Tom Holland too really appreciates being in the MCU. So I'm not under the impression that any longer that Tom Holland is going to be jumping over to the Sony universe, at least not anytime soon. So I still very much believe that Spider-Man 4 will be Sony and MCU collaboration once again. And if they do introduce a Spider-Man over on Sony, I do think at some point in time it'll be somebody else, whether that be Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire again, or Miles Morales, which I've been really pushing around here. I've been saying for like the past year or two, Stuart, I feel like I've been screaming to the high heavens, Miles Morales is going to be live action. Like, I'm fully under the belief that these Across the Spider-Verse movies are meant to bring him into our live action world. And I think Sony could have a nice little layup there if they need a Spider-Man for sort of their universe if they want to. So that's just what I'm under the impression. That's just speculation on my part. But I've never really saw that seen as a release of the MCU. I think we're going to get still another Sony MCU collaboration here. But what do you think, Stuart? Do you think that there's a chance that Tom finally goes over the Sony or what?
I definitely think when the last Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, was made, they made that ending the way it was so it could be a possibility, but I don't think they made it with the intention of, oh, this is definitely 100% confirmed that he's going back to Sony.
Like kind of open-ended tease?
Yeah, very open-ended, exactly. And I think it was all just going to depend on this movie's success and Sony's success going forward. So far, No Way Home, again, working with Disney, did really well. We know that Tom Holland has at least one more movie under his, or that he's contracted for. He might be contracted for more than that, but we know of at least one more MCU movie that he's contracted for. So we'll have to see how that goes. But given that the last couple of Sony projects haven't been the most successful, those being Morbius and Venom 2, it's if Sony continues to not be as successful as they want to be, I don't see Spider-Man leaving the MCU anytime soon. I see them continuing to make the deal of keeping Tom Holland in the MCU because that currently is what's making them the most amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's happy and fat over there with what they've created. Kurt, were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say, and it's funny too, because I thought for a while that they were going to try to tie the Sony universe into the MCU, until watching Spider-Man until watching Venom 2, I should say. Because that almost looked like what they were doing with Morbius, the fact that they had, Michael Keaton's Vulture in the trailer. And so it just it felt like behind the scenes, they still weren't sure what they wanted to do with that. And so it was just kind of like a last minute, okay, we changed our mind. We're not doing this.
Yeah, if it honestly felt that way, because if you look at the end credit for Venom 2, right, he gets teleported into the MCU world right at the very end of that.
Yeah.
And and we're like, oh, it's gonna happen, right? We're gonna get this massive team up, and we're gonna blend both worlds together. And then, literally, when we get to the end of No Way Home, like, he's not in this movie at all until the end credit scene, and then he just gets his ass thrown back to where he was at. And literally, the idea was just, hey, we just need this, we just need the symbiote, guys. Like, can we just get the symbiote here into the MCU? That's the real purpose of this. And I'm just like, what was the? They really went out of their way just to make that happen. They really did.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Kurt Marino. One question for Stuart. What are some of your favorite moments from the 4-part finale of Dino Fury? What you got, Stuart?
Okay, definitely that Zord battle at the very end with the Rangers on foot. That was so freaking cool. I also kind of like that they went with kind of my idea of how I would end the a Power Ranger season before the year 2025, which is the idea of having like the new Rethkonians like living on Earth as a way to kind of build up the idea of aliens living on Earth becoming a common thing. I really like that they kind of built they're building into the SPD timeline basically. What else did I like about it? God, it's actually been a minute since I watched them watched the 4-parter, so I'm trying to remember what else happened. As cheesy as it was, I did like the Rathcon General changing her mind after seeing like the good that people can do even in like disasters. It was cheesy. It was not directed the best, but the overall message they were trying to get across I thought was good, so I didn't mind how it wasn't executed as great as it could have been.
No, I definitely understand you there, man. Let's see here. One question for Adam, in case Stuart isn't available. What other movie director besides Michael Bay do you think ruined 2 franchises? Oh, geez. I was gonna. I don't know about director, but I was just gonna say Eric Wallace from The Flash. I don't know if maybe I feel like maybe he single-handedly has ruined the Flash as it goes towards its end.
What else has he ruined though?
Yeah, I don't know what else he's ruined though. I'm trying to think of like 2 other franchises. That's a hard one. Can you think of any, Stuart?
I can think of a producer. Avi Arad's ruined 2 Spider-Man franchises, 3 if you count the animated Spider-Man series.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a good one too. I'm trying to see if there's something on Google here, like directors that might have ruined good movies. But yeah.
If we lived in the Scream universe, and if you ask certain fans, I'm sure they would tell you that Rian Johnson has ruined both the Stab franchise and the Star Wars franchise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good one. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, Kurt. So
if you guys saw Scream 5, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's like this joke in the movie.
Yeah, I missed that one, Stuart. I'm sorry. I haven't caught up to the Scream ones yet, man.
Ooh, what was the last one you saw?
Like 2.
Oh,
yeah, like 2.
Okay, so yeah, 3rd one's not my favorite, but I really like 4, 5, and 6 were really good.
Okay, I want to check them out. Like 5 and 6 look really good. It feels like it's definitely revived the franchise for sure. And the girlfriend and I always talk about doing a Scream marathon at some point in time. So
that'd be totally a fun idea to do during Halloween. Honestly, when your kid gets to that age where you think he's ready for horror movies, Scream might actually be like a perfect like first horror movie to kind of ease him into the world of horror.
Ooh, yeah, that might be a good one, actually. Yeah, that might be a good one.
Yeah.
It looks like this article that I found, GameRant.com, has a couple franchises, and it feels like, I don't know if they're blaming like the director for actually leaving after the first movie, but like they have like Pirates of the Caribbean, and they talk about how big the first one was that was directed by wasn't the first one. I thought it was directed by Jerry Bruckheimer, wasn't it? Or was it Joel Schumacher? No, I can't remember. Who was it directed by?
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Joel Schumacher, but let
It
me look
wasn't
that
Joel. Who
up.
was it? Jerry. I think it was Jerry Bruckheimer, wasn't it?
Maybe. It was drum roll, please. Gore Verbinski. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder why they have these up here on this list. This is an interesting one. I don't know.
He
I'll go back.
directed Rango as well. Oh, and he also directed The Lone Ranger.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We got Michael. What's up, Michael? Need for Speed, the movie, is probably the best game movie adaptation I've ever seen. To this day, it pumps my adrenaline up. The action scenes were on point, and the story was goals. Driving across the country with your hot girl, your crew, and to race the race of all races. What do you guys think of this movie? Is it underrated and or underappreciated, or Fast and the Furious ripoff? Is that the one with Jesse from Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I actually never saw this movie.
I never saw this one either. Man, Michael, I gotta check it out then. Sounds pretty legit. It's funny he brings up Need for Speed though. Need for Speed was a racing movie, it was a racing video game. And so for me, the idea of bringing a racing game to life was always like, I always wanted to know how they would do it. Need for Speed was definitely an interesting take. This past week, Stuart, I don't know if you know, but Gran Turismo dropped the trailer for their upcoming video game movie adaptation. And I used to love playing Gran Turismo. I am not sure how to feel necessarily about it. Have you checked out the trailer by any chance? Did you know that there was a Gran Turismo trailer?
I didn't even know there was one, but I'm definitely going to put that on my watch list right now.
It's got David Harbour in it. It also has, God, who's playing opposite of him? Something, I can't remember who's playing opposite of him. Something says, I want to say Orlando Bloom, but I really don't think it's Orlando Bloom. Why am I Gran Turismo movie or cast? I will say it's Orlando Bloom is in here.
Oh wow, yeah.
Opposite David Harbour. And it's the idea of sort of a champion in the video game realm of Gran Turismo getting the opportunity to compete in a real race. Like, it's almost like they're taking like the video game stars and like putting them in like a competition, like the best 10 players in the world, put them in a competition to teach them how to drive real racing cars, and the winner of that competition gets placed in like a legit race. And so it's an interesting concept, the idea of bringing like a actual video gamer to the track. So there are concepts of it that I'm fascinated in, but sometimes I'm like, lame, this is a terrible concept, but I don't know. I kind of want to give it a shot, but I would recommend checking it out if you can.
I'm intrigued by that concept. It's not just making a generic racing movie. It's acknowledging Gran Turismo is a game within this universe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I like, you know what? This is an intriguing concept. I'll definitely, I'll definitely check this movie out when it comes out.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but I do think it could be a gimmicky one that sounds so unbelievable. But the way that they make it seems like they're really competing to try and learn to become a racer as best as you can, for these people that sit at home and just play video games all day. But I don't know. Check it out, though. It looked like an interesting trailer. I know it doesn't really answer your Need for Speed question, Michael. I apologize, but we both have not seen the movie. But I do like the actor involved. And I do remember seeing trailers for it, thinking to myself, I guess I never knew what the story of Need for Speed really was. It just always went to the arcade and played it, So the fact that they have given it a story, or there was a story to begin with, that's kind of intriguing to me. So maybe it's something I should worth checking out for sure.
Yeah. I gotta imagine now, if they do a Call of Duty movie, are they gonna do one that starts with just a neckbeard just chilling, enjoying his game of Call of Duty, when suddenly some government agents show up and go, "You're the best Call of Duty player. You've been drafted," and just seem like, "Wait, what? Come on."
Yo, that's a great concept for a Call of Duty movie.
Guy, he's like just forced to like now fight in the military. It's like, I never even passed gym class.
Now he's like a SEALs member teammate. Oh no. Yeah. I love that concept, Stuart. I really do. Copyright that.
Yes.
Oh man, I love it. This might be, we'll see. I would say this might be the last one because it's getting kind of late around here. It's 10 o'clock here where I'm at, and I want to spend some time with the family. So this might be the last one here, but we'll see how we feel after it, Stuart. Jackson Peterson, why do DC Arrowverse is better than the DCEU? Ooh, putting them on blast. Let's see what you got, Jackson. That's because the DCEU wanted too much too fast. You have to do an origin story or something like that for people to feel for a character and get emotional and stuff. But instead of doing that, they threw many well-known characters in one movie and hoped for the best. TV, in my opinion, was just better suited for comic book stories. Example, we've spent more screen time with Thea Queen and Arrow than some of the characters we've had in the DCEU that didn't really have enough screen time to be explored and developed. There's nothing movies could ever do that to close that gap. Unless you're the MCU and has Kevin Feige as the GOAT, right? So it is possible. It is possible. A director like Thea Queen in the Arrowverse had more total screen time than characters in the DCEU like Maxwell Lord, Stephen Trevor, and Ryan Chow. To be fair, Ryan Chow himself also didn't get proper development in the Arrowverse. Speaks volumes to the type of universe you can create on the small screen. Can you imagine if these shows were allowed to use bigger characters like the main Justice League, like Batman himself? The scale of a television comic book universe could have the potential to be even more huge. Honestly, it already did for the first decade of the Oliver Queen era. If you told me when I was a kid that we'd see DC characters like Elongated Man, Green Arrow, Atom, etc. on screen together in live action universe, I wouldn't believe you. I just can't flesh out characters out enough in a movie universe unless it's very, very long term. Even then, actors are expensive and movies are expensive. Sorry for sharing my thoughts on DC TV compared to the DCEU films. I thought this would be fun to talk about. Definitely very fun to talk about, Jackson. Thank you so much for your comments here. But look, it is possible, though. It is possible. The MCU has created some incredible characters that people very much have been emotionally impacted to and really connected with. And you see the loss of these characters in the MCU as of right now with not having our Chris Evans as Captain America or our Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. They're very much the anchor. And so, yes, while I definitely do think having a Kevin Feige on your side definitely helps, I do think that there is a possibility that the DCU could also accomplish that at some point in time. I think I'm definitely going to give James Gunn the opportunity to certainly create that world because I do think if anything has what James Gunn has accomplished just with his Guardians of the Galaxy movies alone, he understands the importance of those connective tissues to the characters and making the character and the story that emphasis. I do think that there's a possibility of the DCU being able to do that as far as character growth and, character appearances. But look, it took also the MCU 10 years to achieve that as well in their own capacities. The same amount of time that it definitely took the Arrowverse to achieve what it certainly did. Clearly, they've all told significantly different stories, but I do think we live in the world where the DCU can get to that point. But up until this point, Stuart, DC Television's been kicking their ass. Would you agree or what?
Oh yeah. And I think like the biggest, thing that he brings up that I think was the biggest like downfall of the DCEU, unfortunately, was they tried to play catch up way too fast.
Way too fast.
Yeah, and I think with the Arrowverse, it had the same benefit the MCU did, which is that it was able to take its time building its world instead of just, Arrow episode 2, suddenly, we're introducing the Flash, the Hawks, Superman. They didn't try to do anything like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've kind of always said here, and I think Jackson appreciates it too, is like I like to think that we give the DC Television love for what is created. Like a lot of people can shit on Crisis on Infinite Earths all they want to, but can you believe we got Crisis on Infinite Earths on Arrowverse television show? Like what? The fact that Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim were able to just create this massive Arrowverse, have staples that have changed people's careers, like Stephen Amell, Grant Gustin, Melissa Benoist, right? They are sort of this generation's versions of those characters as we know it. And the fact that they have been able to bring all these vast supporting characters to life for people, just regular general audience people members to learn and know of, I think has been nothing but impactful. And honestly, I think did even the DCEU some favors in the sense of incorporating all these movies over the past several years into their Crisis on Infinite Earths, like literally connecting all the pieces for the DCEU at the time. So the Arrowverse was very much way ahead of its time. And I would definitely agree with you. Did a lot better than what the DCEU was trying to accomplish. And not to say that they couldn't, but yeah, they stepped all over their own feet, got cold feet, very reactionary when they certainly didn't need to. And like you guys mentioned, the idea of just moving way too fast. So I think they were more of a detriment to themselves. Not that they couldn't have achieved it, but I think they were just more of a detriment to themselves. Whereas when you look at television, they just had it all together. They knew what they wanted to achieve, and they stuck with it. And look what it took them. So absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up, Jackson. Let's see here. You know what, Stuart? I think we'll end on that note. I think we'll end on that note today.
Sounds good.
If anything, Jack Daniels, from Jack Daniels all the way up to Nicole Robertson. We will, in fact, be getting to your questions. If anything, maybe myself, maybe me and Stuart will do, or Stuart we'll tackle live viewer questions for you guys. Probably try and record something for you guys tomorrow and have it up for you guys on Tuesday. So look forward to that, and we'll definitely get to the remainder of questions. But thank you so much, guys, for everybody submitting your questions and getting caught up this week with us. But yeah, that will end our live viewer questions. How do I stop this music? There we go. Boom. Awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, other than that, I think that's going to do it for us here. We got any live episode? We got any episodes this week, Stuart? Superman and Lois got an episode this week?
It does indeed. So yeah, you'll definitely see my review for I believe it'll be episode 8. I believe I'll have it up hopefully Thursday.
Hopefully on Thursday. All right. We got Simon in the house. What's up, Simon? Good to see you. And then we got Datilla in here. It says, hey Adam, are you free Thursday? Maybe we can talk about me possibly doing wrestling reviews once a month. Hey, I'd be totally down for that, Datilla. We would love to have you on board. You know, we've been looking for some other team members, and wrestling is something that we've always wanted to kind of introduce. I mean, we talk about wrestling all the time, you and I, and wanting to do more and kind of work closely together. So if anything, yeah, we're definitely considering bringing wrestling pay-per-view reviews to the channel once a month. We've been doing predictions around here, and so we'd like to have a little bit of a follow-up to those events also. And then, you know, Datilla can brag about how she kicks my ass in predictions all the time also. So, yeah.
Awesome. More content.
Yeah, more content for the channel. So Mandalorian is officially done, although I do want to do a Mandalorian season 3 review in total. Gotham Knights continues. I believe there is a brand new episode this week, so I'll definitely be recording a Gotham Knights episode for you guys this week. I do need to get onto Titans. They did drop the last few episodes. Have you checked out Titans this season?
Oh man, I haven't. I started in the beginning of it, but I haven't seen like past episode 3 or 4.
Okay.
Whichever one had the zombies, that was the last one I watched.
Okay, so yeah, so they did have dropped their final episode. So that, if anything, that's probably next on my list of the series that I gotta watch, so I can review that final part to it. And then I do believe The Flash has another episode this week. Is that correct? I think it's a new episode this week. So hopefully, Indy will be getting you guys something also in that regards. Go ahead.
Speaking of The Flash, This last episode was also surprisingly really good,
Okay.
which really threw me off. I figured all the effort really just went into that one episode with Green Arrow, but no, the episode afterwards, it's actually continuing that momentum. It's like going to be a 4-part season finale. So far, part 1, I'm already hooked, and I'm really excited to see what's how this is going to conclude eventually.
Yeah, well, hopefully it will. Maybe they've saved the best for last. Really building up that momentum to the finale. So we'll see how the remainder of this season goes. I definitely need to catch up for sure. But I'm also going to be trying to be more mindful of. I got to see what other series are upcoming, if anything, that we might want to bring to the channel also. And I really want to start doing more movie reviews here, guys. Listen, we are doing some recruiting here for A+ Hero Report. If you're a big movie goer, if you go to the movies like on a weekly basis, and you constantly watch brand new movies when they're released, and you feel like you can articulate your thoughts, pros and cons, and your thoughts about your review of the film, we definitely would love to go ahead and talk to you about maybe doing like non-spoiler reviews, or maybe even spoiler reviews for the movies that are certainly dropping on a weekly basis. So if you're big moviegoers, if you love talking movies and getting your point across, we'd love to certainly talk with you. So definitely go ahead and hit us up. There is a email account that you guys can follow us or contact us in the comment section box below.
Would you be down to do a Guardians of the Galaxy review tomorrow?
I have not seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I may try to fit Guardians of the Galaxy review on the channel tomorrow if I have time.
You doing non-spoiler or spoiler? That's
I'll
up to
do
you.
a non-spoiler in case you want to do like a spoiler review later.
That's fine. Yeah. So if you want to do a spoiler or non-spoiler review for Guardians of the Galaxy, just to give your overall thoughts on it, yeah, feel free to. You can drop that anytime this week if you want to. You don't have to wait for me. And then if anything, I'll try and do my best to go and see it this week. And then maybe we'll do a spoiler review sometime next weekend.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah. So we'll try and plan that. But other than that, guys, Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can follow me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on Instagram.
If you guys want to follow us on social media, right up here at the top at A+ Opinions, very active over on Facebook. Catch us on Twitter as well as Instagram. We do have a Discord forum community up there for you guys. There is a link in the description box below. If you want to talk more topics besides what we discussed here, you certainly feel free to join us at our Discord. We definitely have a good time over there discussing the plethora of other topics as well. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit the subscribe button, guys. Hit that like bell, also that like button if you appreciated this week's episode. We actually have a brand new logo that's currently in the works as well. So hopefully we'll be revealing it to you guys here within the next couple of weeks ourselves. So a lot of big moving pieces. Remember, anytime that you help support this channel, trust me when I say it definitely does go to a good place. I mean, look, we're streaming right now, for instance, Stuart, right? We're streaming right now on StreamYard. Even though I've got like a 1080, 1080p camera, this only streams in 720. The idea of us having to move up to StreamYard is like an additional $20 a month. So, by your guys' support, we might be able to even bring better production to the show on a monthly basis. So we're definitely looking to go ahead and change things around here for you guys, and putting our best foot forward. So we continue to appreciate your support because we wouldn't be here without you guys. So thank you so much once again. And that's going to do it for us here. We'll certainly see you guys later on throughout the week with new content, and then again on Hero Report next Sunday. So until then, guys, do us a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.